Introduction. Su Yi is reborn in the Eastern Wilderness, awakening a mythical role-playing system. At the outset, he draws the template of the demon child Nezha, with a nine-petal flame lotus blooming in his dantian and golden magical patterns emerging on his forehead. Each alignment with Nezha's defiant nature unlocks an additional length of the heavenly silk, while the true fire of Samadhi surges through his meridians. As the sun and moon coexist, countless spirits converge. When the demon child unshackles his cosmic ring, his wild, demonic nature shatters the heavens. Fate is merely a shroud for the weak. My destiny is dictated by myself, not by the heavens. Chapter 1. The Demon Child Nezha. Beep. The host has successfully signed in, earning 100 points of luck. Beep. 3,000 points of luck have been acquired, satisfying the requirement for a basic draw. As it is the first draw, a tenfold critical hit is activated, guaranteeing a golden character reward. Listening to the system's notifications echoing in his mind, Su Yi clenched his fists in excitement at last. He possesses a foundation for survival. During the past days, Su Yi felt as though he was living through an eternity, each day fraught with trepidation. The reason for this was the brutal nature of the world into which he had transmigrated. This is a harsh world of Eastern fantasy, where the law of the jungle reigns supreme. Strength is everything, the only unassailable truth. A person like Su Yi, utterly powerless, is as insignificant as an ant in this realm. In the mass graveyard, countless corpses are added daily, many of whom have lost their lives due to the collateral damage of powerful battles. Su Yi is acutely aware of his precarious situation. He must tread carefully and maintain a low profile, even his gaze betraying humility and fear when meeting others. He constantly fears that a careless act could offend a powerful individual who could easily extinguish his life with a flick of their wrist. After all, no one can guarantee a second chance at rebirth. Should he lose his life this time, he may vanish without a trace, with no hope of return. The sole source of joy for him is the fact that he has awakened with a mythical role-playing system. The mythical role-playing system, as its name suggests, is wondrous in its capabilities. In essence, Su Yi can unlock greater powers by embodying mythical figures. The deeper his embodiment, the stronger the abilities he attains. Once fully unlocked, all skills and treasures associated with the character will belong to Su. The system's requirements are exceedingly strict. Even the most basic mythical character necessitates 3,000 points of luck to draw. To accumulate this amount, Su Yi diligently signed in every day, tirelessly laboring for 30 days before finally achieving his goal. Of course, aside from signing in to gain luck, the system also allows for another method of exchange using rare treasures of heaven and earth. However, for Su Yi, this is akin to a distant dream. In this ruthless world of Eastern fantasy, such treasures are fiercely contested by the strong, each closely guarded and often concealed within perilous realms. In his current fragile state, merely approaching the vicinity of these treasures could result in immediate annihilation. He can only place his hopes on daily sign-ins. Yearning for the day, he can draw a mythical figure to alter his fate. Su Yi, are you truly not considering it anymore? Working as a waiter at our inn may not lead to wealth, but it ensures a steady supply of food and clothing, a middle-aged man said, deftly manipulating an abacus while casting a look of expectation and confusion at Su Yi. Su Yi slightly bowed, politely declining, his expression filled with gratitude as he replied, "Thank you for your generosity in sheltering me this past month. I shall remember it." Reflecting on the past month, Su Yi's heart was a tumult of emotions. Arriving in this strange and perilous world, he had to ensure his safety to accumulate the luck points needed for sign-in, waiting patiently for the 30-day period to conclude. To resolve his basic needs, he had to find employment. Lacking any special skills or powerful connections, he concluded that working as a waiter at the inn was the most viable option. Fortunately, having previously worked in a similar capacity during summer breaks, he could quickly adapt to the role. Throughout this month, though the innkeeper appeared shrewd, he treated Su Yi with a degree of kindness, not making things overly difficult for him. Had it not been for the mythical role-playing system, Su Yi might have resigned himself to a lifetime as a humble waiter, living an ordinary existence. Yet now, having gathered the necessary 3,000 luck points, his destiny may soon take a significant turn, filling him with both anticipation and apprehension. Thus he was unwilling to continue this stable, yet mundane job. Seeing Su Yi's resolute demeanor, the innkeeper, recognizing his unwavering determination, ceased to press him further. He pushed the abacus aside, focusing on the already calculated wages before him, then reached into the drawer, retrieving 220 copper coins, counting them with deliberate care. The innkeeper presented the coins to Su Yi, his expression businesslike as he stated, 35 copper coins deducted for the wrong dish, 24 for 2 broken plates. The accounts are clear. Please check for any discrepancies. His tone, though neutral, carried an undeniable certainty in his eyes. There could be no ambiguity regarding the accounts. After a brief pause, the innkeeper continued, considering you've worked here for a month, you may stay in the firewood room for one last night. However, come dawn, once you find a place to stay, you must leave. His gaze swept over Su Yi while his words lacked warmth. They conveyed a hint of leniency. Su Yi accepted the coins, counting them meticulously, nodding silently in acknowledgement. With his wages in hand, he turned and walked towards the firewood room. The air in the firewood room was filled with the faint scent of sawdust and hay, dim light filtering through crevices, creating beams of illumination. He expertly unfolded a piece of cloth from the corner, gently shaking off the dust before laying it flat on the somewhat rough floor, slowly reclining upon it. At this moment, Su Yi's heart raced with uncontainable excitement. Taking a deep breath, he eagerly awakened the mythical role-playing system within his mind. In an instant, an ethereal voice resonated in his consciousness. First draw, tenfold critical hit bonus activated. Will you draw a character? Yes. Su Yi responded without hesitation, his voice trembling with excitement. As he confirmed, the scene before him abruptly transformed, countless illusory lights swirling and intertwining rapidly in his mind. He saw 4 swords spinning around him, their blades gleaming with a chilling radiance, as if capable of tearing through space, exuding an overwhelming aura, a torrent of killing intent flooding from the swords. Just a glance felt as though invisible hands were tightening around his heart, nearly suffocating him. Next, he beheld the Rui Jingu Bang, radiant with light, seemingly able to stabilize the cosmos, adorned with a phoenix-winged purple-golden crown, clad in a golden chainmail armor that shimmered coldly, and wearing cloud-soled shoes. Ultimately, the rapidly spinning and intertwining illusory lights in his mind gradually stabilized, locking onto a particular image. Congratulations, host! You have drawn the demon child Nezha. Chapter 2. The Pressure of Demonic Energy. The Terrified City Lord. The Demon Child. Nezha. Su Yi envisioned the small stature of the demon child Nezha, his fiery red hair wildly ablaze, reminiscent of flames in full fury. His round face bore the innocence of a child, yet dark circles under his eyes, and when he smiled, his lips curled to reveal 2 sharp fangs, creating a strikingly incongruous yet alluring presence. The celestial rings upon his arms shimmered with a cold light, while the ethereal ribbon around his waist danced like a fiery serpent, manifesting his extraordinary prowess. In that moment, a tempestuous force erupted from the illusory image before him, surging forth like relentless waves, perpetually battering Su Yi with its overwhelming pressure. This onslaught of oppression caused a tremor within Su Yi's heart. The Nezha before him appeared nothing short of a counterfeit, a malevolent child, starkly contrasting with the righteous figure he had long revered, embodying 2 polar extremes. The mythological role-playing system can even conjure the demon child Nezha. Su Yi was astounded, marveling internally. Among all incarnations of Nezha, he found himself particularly drawn to this version, born from the demon orb. Unlike the traditional portrayal of a virtuous reincarnation endowed with innate spiritual pearls, this demon child Nezha exuded a fierce defiance, proclaiming, "My destiny is mine to dictate. I shall not bow to fate," captivating him with its spirit of rebellion against predetermined paths. Admittedly, in terms of combat prowess, the demon child Nezha might pale in comparison to the Nezha of the investiture of the gods. However, at this current stage, such power was more than sufficient for Su Yi. Once acquired, he could instantaneously rise to become a formidable force, rewriting the trajectory of his fate. As the thought of embodying the demon child Nezha settled in his mind, an intense, almost blinding light enveloped him entirely. Within this radiance, Su Yi's form felt as though it were being reshaped by invisible hands, every muscle and bone undergoing a dramatic metamorphosis. His stature rapidly diminished, his once imposing physique transforming into a petite figure. Beneath his skin, an extraordinary power surged, as if striving to break free from all constraints. The light writhed and twisted around him like a living entity, enveloping him in layers. Gradually, the brilliance receded, as if drawn back by a mysterious force, until it vanished entirely, and Su Yi's original form was likewise obliterated. In its stead stood a small child, barely over a meter in height, resembling the demon child Nezha from his mind's eye. In contrast to the imagined figure, he bore no mighty fire spear, only the ethereal ribbon coiling around his waist like a lively fire serpent, and the celestial rings on his arms radiating a chilling light, intended to seal away demonic energy. At this moment, Su Yi had successfully transformed into the demon child Nezha, emanating a unique aura that was both chilling and alluring. Mythological role-playing system. Host Su Yi. Current role, Demon Child Nezha. Current progress, 25. Abilities, Fire Control, 3 Realms True Fire, Innate Divine Strength, Transformation Technique, Complete Demon Orb Unlocked, 3 Heads and 6 Arms Locked, Law of Heaven and Earth Locked. Artifacts, Ethereal Ribbon, Celestial Rings, Fire Spear Locked, Wind and Fire Wheels Locked. Current luck value, 0. A transparent panel materialized in his mind, appearing rather rudimentary, yet clearly displaying all pertinent data. The waning moon hung like a crescent hook as Su Yi stood barefoot atop the tiled roof of the inn. The ethereal ribbon fluttered in the night breeze, while the celestial rings around his neck glimmered with a ghostly blue light. He gazed down at his childlike hands, the 3 realms true fire flickering at his fingertips, distorting the moonlight. With a gentle closing of his eyes, he attuned himself to the surging power within, resembling a roaring torrent, endless and unfathomable, akin to an abyss. This force was intoxicating in its vigor, as if he wielded the authority to command the heavens, and earth a mere flick of his fingers could reshape reality itself. The once unattainable aspirations now seemed tantalizingly within reach, all thanks to this newfound power. Su Yi could not help but marvel at how captivating and potent this energy felt. Yet he pondered what level of strength he currently possessed in this vast world. During the past month as an inn attendant, he had not merely existed for survival. The myriad of travelers brought with them a wealth of information, despite the inherent dangers. He had gleaned insights into the cultivation system of this Eastern fantasy realm, wherein levels were categorized as body refinement, meridian opening, external appearance, and golden body. Higher tiers remained beyond his comprehension and experience. The Lord of Qingyun City stood at the pinnacle of external appearance's 4th realm. Golden body cultivators were a rarity in the entire Zhou kingdom, often ruling over states or serving as esteemed elders in premier sections. As he absorbed the atmosphere of Qingyun City, he sensed a formidable presence in the eastern direction. Before him, it felt like a larger-than-life ant. If this were the case, could the base version of Nezha effortlessly overpower the Lord of External Appearance's 4th realm? Standing atop the inn's roof, the moonlight cascading over his diminutive form, the formidable aura surrounding him starkly contrasted with the tranquility of the night. Though he possessed powers far beyond the ordinary in the guise of the demon child Nezha, the vastness of this Eastern fantasy world, teeming with unknown perils and formidable adversaries, instilled within him a sense of urgency. The external appearance level, while powerful, was still insufficient. Clenching his fists tightly, he resolved to elevate his role-playing proficiency until he fully unlocked the powers of the demon child Nezha. I'm a little demon, carefree and unrestrained. I kill without a blink, devouring without restraint. With a flicker of red light, the small figure vanished from the inn's roof. Su Yi, now transformed into the demon child Nezha, enveloped in the crimson glow of the ethereal ribbon, soared towards the outskirts of Qingyun City like a meteor streaking across the night sky. Within the grand hall of the Qingyun City Lord's estate, adorned with intricate carvings and paintings, the flickering lanterns cast a wavering glow. Lord Yi, clad in a long robe, bore a grave expression as beads of sweat trickled down his forehead. He hastily wiped them away, his chest heaving, taking a moment to exhale deeply. Only moments ago, an overwhelming and ominous force, thick with demonic energy, had erupted without warning, a power rivaling that of a golden body realm cultivator. Under the weight of this force, Lord Yi felt his heart race as if gripped by an invisible hand, with each breath becoming increasingly labored. His hand had even reached for the alarm bell on the table, nearly pulling it in desperation to summon aid from neighboring cities or higher powers. Lord Yi breathed deeply once more, a look of relief washing over his face. Fortunately, this formidable power was not directed at Qingyun City. He slowly approached the window, gazing toward the dissipating force, his brow still furrowed in concern. Chapter 3. Are you playing a game? Take me with you. In that dim and oppressive valley, the thick, inky mist roiled freely, shrouding everything in a veil of chaos. The valley was strewn with grotesque rocks of varying shapes, some resembling fierce demons, others like lurking giants, their eerie presence enhanced by the fog. The Master's profound fire celestial snake was proving to be exceedingly formidable. Xiao Linglong gasped for breath, feeling the weight of immense pressure upon her. Large beads of sweat cascaded down her cheeks, dampening her disheveled hair. Her garments were thoroughly soaked with sweat and blood, clinging tightly to her form, accentuating her weary silhouette. The immense body of the profound fire celestial snake roamed the valley with abandon, effortlessly crushing rocks beneath its weight, producing a deep, resonant sound. Surrounding it were flames of blazing crimson, seemingly alive, leaping and twisting, warping the very air around them. Each breath it took was accompanied by a wave of scorching heat, making Xiao Linglong feel as though she were ensconced within a furnace, her breathing becoming increasingly arduous. Hold on, Linglong. The celestial flame of the profound fire snake is the innate spirit fire that accompanies it. Once absorbed, the heavenly fire technique will be within your grasp. In merely a month or two, you can transcend the outer realm and reach the golden body stage. By then, even that boy will not be your match. And the 3-year pact will finally reach its conclusion. A clear, melodious voice echoed in her mind, bringing Xiao Linglong back to her senses. Her gaze gradually hardened. She now bore the honor of her entire family and the hope of her master's vengeance. How could she possibly falter against a mere profound fire celestial snake? It was preposterous. The massive head and tail of the profound fire celestial snake lashed out repeatedly, producing a dull, resounding crack that struck at the very core of Xiao Linglong, unsettling her spirit. The flames that enveloped it twisted the surrounding air into grotesque shapes, waves of heat crashing relentlessly upon her. Each breath it exhaled was like a tidal wave of searing heat, plunging Xiao Linglong into the heart of a furnace, making each inhalation an almost insurmountable challenge. Her throat felt parched, as if it were smoking, and her skin burned painfully from the heat, yet her gaze remained resolute, fixed on the movements of the profound fire celestial snake. Lingji, too, was intently focused on the tumultuous profound fire celestial snake within Xiao Linglong's mind. As one of the most formidable beasts among the 9th tier of the outer realm, the profound fire celestial snake possessed terrifying power. Its robust form slithered with grace, causing the earth to tremble slightly beneath its passage. More troublesome still, it was accompanied by its innate spirit fire. That inferno, akin to a burning hell, unleashed cataclysmic force with each leap, warping the air around it. Even a powerful warrior at the golden body stage would find no advantage in confronting such a fearsome beast recklessly. Throughout the entire Zhou kingdom, those who possess the formidable strength of the golden body realm are invariably the decision-makers of powerful factions. When they stamp their feet, the very earth trembles beneath them. Yet, even in the face of the Xuanhua heavenly serpent, they must tread carefully, refraining from rash actions. Only those alchemists who have cultivated the heavenly fire scripture, due to the unique nature of their techniques, dare to confront this serpent, as they must absorb the foreign flames to challenge it. For anyone else, evasion would be the only option. Who would willingly provoke this lethal scourge? It is well understood that once entangled, there is no escape from a deadly conflict. Linglong, hold on just a little longer, we are almost there. Ling Ji was concentrating her soul energy, preparing to unleash a decisive strike to unexpectedly slay the Xuanhua heavenly serpent. Although this would further diminish her own spiritual essence, the opportunity to absorb the serpent's azure flame would render Xiao Linglong's future boundless. Such a risk was indeed worthwhile. Having long regarded life and death with indifference, she was resolute in defying fate. My destiny is mine to command, not left to the heavens. I shall become a demon, not a celestial being. As the confrontation reached its zenith, an invisible force seemed to draw both the serpent and the two individuals toward the source of a sound, compelling them to glance in that direction. Upon their first glance, Xiao Linglong and Ling Ji were taken aback. Not far away, a mountain, ravaged by the fierce battle, was engulfed in flames, thick smoke billowing upward, creating an apocalyptic scene. Yet amid this chaos, a child, sporting a skyward braid, ambled toward the battlefield with hands tucked into pockets, as if strolling through a serene garden. Without a moment's hesitation, Xiao Linglong shouted toward the child, "Young one, do not come any closer. This place is exceedingly dangerous." In that dire moment, despite her own peril, she instinctively sought to protect this seemingly naive child. Sweat and blood mingled, cascading down her cheeks and falling onto the searing ground, evaporating instantly. Ling Ji, however, wore a grave expression, unease bubbling within her. Hidden within the depths of Xiao Linglong's consciousness, she scrutinized this unexpected visitor from a unique perspective. The child's appearance struck her first. The initial impression was one of ugliness. Dark circles hung beneath the child's eyes, starkly contrasting with their face as if marked by the harshness of life. In this perilous forest teeming with monstrous beasts, how could a solitary child appear? There was an inexplicable oddity about it. Ling Ji felt an ominous aura surrounding the child. Shrouded in an enigmatic mist, she grew increasingly wary and whispered softly in Xiao Linglong's mind, "Be cautious, Linglong. This child is not ordinary." The child, seemingly oblivious to their concerns, continued to advance toward the battlefield. The infernal serpent was evidently enraged by the sudden intruder. Its colossal head swung towards the child. Its mouth agape, unleashing a deafening roar. A torrent of crimson flames erupted from its maw, forming a wall of fire that surged towards the child, intent on incinerating the Navi little one into ashes in an instant. Cursed human. However, the child merely lifted his head slightly, revealing a beguiling smile. Proceeding at a leisurely pace, just as the flames were about to engulf him, he waved his hand gently, and an intangible force instantaneously dispersed the flames. As effortless as scattering a feather, Xiao Linglong's pupils constricted, her eyes widening in disbelief, clearly taken aback. "Are you playing a game? Can I join? You big fool." A raspy voice abruptly pierced the air, akin to sandpaper scraping against itself, reminiscent of a wailing demon from the depths of hell, drilling into the ears of those present, sending shivers down their spines. Chapter 4. Is it not you, the cunning serpent? Ling Ji's gaze grazed the swirling demonic energy surrounding the child, and in that fleeting moment, her heart felt as though struck by lightning, leading her to a conclusion. This was undeniably an adversary far beyond her capacity to contend with. She understood that her soul's strength had diminished significantly over the long years, leaving her with scant remnants. Even should she expend all that remained of her soul's power, igniting an unprecedented force, it would be utterly impossible to rival the terrifying presence that appeared to embody a mere 3-year-old child. No, he was far from an ordinary child. Beneath the heavy dark circles lay a pair of eyes radiating an eerie glow, as if capable of perceiving the world's darkest secrets. He exuded a chilling demonic aura, with each tendril of energy cutting through the air like sharp blades, causing the very fabric of space to ripple under the onslaught of this power. An overwhelming dread surged within Ling Ji, a tremor originating from the depths of her soul. Throughout her extensive training, she had encountered countless powerful beings and faced numerous perilous situations, yet never had she felt such a profound sense of vulnerability as she did in this moment. The intensity of the demonic energy was unprecedented, reminiscent of the very source of malevolence. Although that force only imparted the pressure of a golden body realm, it was precisely this that instilled genuine fear in her. Reflecting on her peak years, she had once been a sovereign of the heavens, commanding the elements and instilling fear in all. In those times, she stood atop the pyramid of cultivation, with countless powerful beings merely gazing up at her in awe, lamenting their own inadequacies. She had been but a step away from the legendary realm of immortality, a chasm that countless cultivators yearned to cross, yet found insurmountable. Now, confronted by this terrifying entity, appearing as a mere 3-year-old child, yet radiating an ominous demonic aura, she felt diminutive and powerless. Ling Ji's voice trembled with urgency as she directly shouted into Xiao Linglong's mind, "Flee. Just run. Pay no heed to the infernal serpent or its flames. Life itself embodies hope. Although the Xuanhua heavenly serpent is indeed a rarity, the first fire has its alternatives." Xiao Linglong had been intently fixated on the serpent, poised to seize another opportunity, when the trembling and urgent call of Ling Ji abruptly froze her expression. Instinctively, her gaze flickered towards the child with the sky-high braid. From this seemingly unattractive youth, she had previously sensed an unsettling aura. Yet, she never imagined that even her well-versed and once formidable mentor would harbor such fear. Who exactly is this child? Countless questions surged through her mind, but there was no time to ponder further. In her heart, she harbored an unwavering trust in Ling Ji. If Ling Ji urged her to flee, it must be a moment of utmost peril. In that instant, Xiao Linglong bit her silver teeth and resolutely channeled her energy, her spiritual power surging forth like a torrential tide, instantly enveloping her entire being. A faint halo emanated from her, radiating brilliantly amidst the dim, oppressive valley, painted crimson by the flames of the Xuanhua heavenly serpent. In the next heartbeat, she transformed into a fleeting shadow, darting towards the distance. The air was rent asunder by her swift passage, producing a resounding whoosh. The sands and stones beneath her were swept up by this formidable gust, creating a brief tail of dust that danced in her wake. Having attained sentience, the Xuanhua heavenly serpent detected Xiao Linglong's intent to escape and unleashed a deafening roar. Wretched insect, do you wish to flee? Its roar resounded like rolling thunder, reverberating with boundless fury throughout the dim, oppressive valley. In an instant, the blazing red flames that enveloped its form were supplanted by an ominous black fire, writhing and twisting as though alive, manifesting the serpent's inner rage. Subsequently, the serpent's colossal body transformed into a shadow engulfed in black flames, hurtling at astonishing speed towards the direction Xiao Linglong had fled. In its eyes, she posed a far greater threat and allure than the unexpected 3-year-old child. After all, Xiao Linglong had intruded upon its territory, daring to slay it for its accompanying spirit fire, a matter of life and death for the Xuanhua heavenly serpent. It would not let this transgressor escape easily. The valley was swept by the tempestuous winds conjured by the serpent's momentum, howling fiercely. The monstrous boulders along the path crumbled and shattered under this powerful onslaught, transforming into a storm of debris that, illuminated by the black flames, resembled flying daggers, scattering in all directions. The serpent's robust form stirred the surrounding mist, causing it to swirl violently, rendering the already chaotic space even more tumultuous. In an instant, the Xuanhua heavenly serpent demonstrated remarkable speed, akin to a bolt of black lightning cleaving through the sky, swiftly closing in on the fleeing Xiao Linglong. Its massive tail, enshrouded in roaring flames, lashed out with thunderous force towards her. The force of this strike was astonishing, compressing the air instantaneously and producing a dull, thunderous roar. Xiao Linglong had no time to mount an effective defense and was struck directly by the tail, her body plummeting from the sky like a kite severed from its string. She crashed heavily onto the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust and creating a deep crater. Yet, this was not the end. The immense impact propelled Xiao Linglong back into the air, her body tumbling uncontrollably before crashing down once more, rolling forward twice before coming to a halt. Struggling to rise, she felt as though her internal organs had been displaced. A metallic taste filled her throat, and she violently coughed up a mouthful of blood. Linglong, allow me to take over your body. Lingji sighed helplessly within Xiao Linglong's mind, contemplating the dire circumstances. It seemed unlikely that she would escape unscathed today. No, master. Xiao Linglong's heart tightened at the utterance, and she quickly voiced her refusal. She was acutely aware of Lingji's current state. After the previous exertion, Lingji's spiritual power was almost depleted. If she were to possess her body now, it would undoubtedly exhaust all of Lingji's soul energy, effectively leading her to her demise. Enough. I have lingered in this world for so long. It is better for one to perish than for both of us to face death together. Lingji's words carried an undeniable resolve, fully aware of the grave situation at hand. In that moment, Xiao Linglong seemed to be transported back 3 years. Ha! Is this the first genius of the Xiao family? Still merely at the 3rd level of body refinement. Xiao Linglong, I am here to annul our engagement. As the foremost talent of the Spirit Sword sect, I cannot be bound to a waste like you. 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West. A worm? Are you not more akin to a worm yourself, you despicable snake? That hoarse, grating voice, akin to sandpaper scraping against itself, echoed eerily once more. The Xuanhua heavenly serpent suddenly halted, its massive head stiffly twisting, moving as sluggishly as a rusted machine, slowly turning towards the source of the voice. In its enormous serpentine eyes burned a tempest of fury, hotter and more violent than the demonic flames enveloping its body. In an instant, a torrent of foul, alien fire surged forth like a volcano erupting, aimed at the child standing merely a meter tall. Where this otherworldly fire passed, space seemed to boil like scalding water, violently distorting and reshaping, the surrounding air crackling as it ignited, transforming into a roiling sea of flames. Chapter 5. This is the true fire of Samadhi, seeking continuation. The fury in the Xuanhua heavenly serpent's eyes appeared nearly tangible, its demonic flames surging wildly as it concentrated all its power into its mouth, unleashing a deafening roar as it expelled a torrent of foul, alien fire towards the child. This strike contained boundless wrath and earth-shattering power. In an instant, the air was stirred as if by an invisible giant hand, violently shaking. The sound of the sonic boom was deafening, akin to a series of thunderclaps exploding in one's ears. The disheveled ground, burdened beyond measure, was once more engulfed in a swirling tempest of dust and debris, as countless grains of sand were hurled into the sky, only to descend like a gentle rain. Be careful. Although Xiao Linglong sensed the peculiar nature of the child before her, she could not suppress her exclamation. Yet, Her own peril rendered her helpless. No amount of empathy could alter her fate. Lingji, concealed within the depths of Xiao Linglong's consciousness, had initially worn a visage taut with fear, but now, a barely perceptible glimmer of delight graced her features. She was acutely aware that this seemingly innocuous child was, in fact, an entity of profound terror. A well-known adage states that when the clam and the snipe contend, the fisherman benefits. She sought no gain. If only this beast and child would clash. She could swiftly seize control of Linglong's body and escape. As Lingji plotted in silence, the bizarre fire, imbued with a foul and corrupt essence, surged toward the child with cataclysmic intent. Wherever the strange flames traversed, the fabric of space twisted and cracked, resembling grotesque scars. Yet the child remained unfazed. A mysterious smile curling at the corners of his lips, as he slowly raised his tender hand, fingers splayed, just as the otherworldly fire was about to make contact. A veil of nearly imperceptible black mist unfurled from his palm, blooming like an uncanny flower, steadfastly halting the advancing flames. Fire control technique. The once ferocious black fire, now seemingly manipulated by an invisible yet formidable force, abruptly altered its course. The flames began to dance around the child, sometimes coiling like agile serpents, at other times surging like a tumultuous sea of fire. Each flicker exuded an aura of destruction, yet they did not harm the child in the slightest. As if this onslaught were not unleashed by the Xuanhua Tianxi, but rather originated from this enigmatic boy. What? The Xuanhua Tianxi emitted a roar filled with shock and rage, its blood-red, oversized eyes narrowing in disbelief. This flame was a culmination of its utmost strength. Infused with boundless fury and destructive power, initially thought to be sufficient to reduce the seemingly formidable child to ashes in an instant. Yet now, it found itself effortlessly subdued. In truth, the reason it relentlessly pursued Xiao Linglong was not only due to the already dire circumstances, but also an instinctual awareness of the child's dense aura of demonic energy, which subtly conveyed a sense of lethal danger. Naturally inclined to seize advantage and avoid harm, it preferred to eliminate the seemingly weaker Xiao Linglong first. However, it had never anticipated such an outcome, one that was utterly unacceptable to it. Its body trembled violently with anger and resentment, the demonic flames surging uncontrollably around it. Unwilling to be dominated by this seemingly feeble child, it lashed its enormous tail against the ground with a thunderous crash, sending debris flying. It endeavored to gather strength once more, to mount a counterattack and reclaim control of the battle. You insufferable serpent, you do not seem very endearing at all. The harsh, grating voice, reminiscent of sandpaper scraping, reverberated once more in the ears of the two individuals, and the serpent, starkly jarring and terrifying within the suffocating atmosphere thick with malevolent energy. Upon hearing these words, the already contorted visage of the Xuanhua heavenly serpent twisted into an even more menacing snarl, its scales bristling slightly in fury, producing a rustling sound. Its massive form writhed violently, disturbing the surrounding air into a chaotic maelstrom. This brought to mind the child, with dark circles under his eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth, slowly lifting his head to reveal a grin. That smile was both sinister and eerie, the curve of his lips seemingly capable of evoking all the darkness in the world, instilling an uncontainable chill deep within one's soul. Xiao Linglong, observing from the side, felt a shiver run down her spine, while Lingji, residing in Xiao Linglong's consciousness, furrowed her brow. This child was far more terrifying than she had initially imagined. Even she had never encountered a child under 3 years of age who could so defiantly confront the Xuanhua heavenly serpent. If this child were to mature, to what heights might he ascend? A great emperor? No, it could not merely be an emperor. Achieving immortality might be a trivial matter. Yet the overwhelming demonic energy that enveloped him filled her with dread. Regardless of how one looked at it, he embodied a formidable dark force. Progress update. 50. As the critical threshold was reached, the smile on Su Yi's face, portraying Nezha, widened further. Indeed, this portrayal of the demonic child Nezha was astonishingly authentic. To Xiao Linglong, Lingji, and the Xuanhua heavenly serpent, the terrifying child's smile at that moment was akin to a sharp, icy blade piercing into the deepest recesses of their hearts. Go. With that rasping voice echoing like a command from the depths of the abyss, the child wielded the anomalous fire in his hand, akin to a furious beast roused to wrath, charging toward the Xuanhua heavenly serpent with thunderous momentum. The black flames trailed a long tail, scorching the very fabric of space, which appeared as fragile as thin paper, leaving behind twisted marks and emitting a hissing sound, as if writhing in agony. The Xuanhua heavenly serpent, with its blood-red eyes wide open, fixated on the approaching anomalous fire, involuntarily exhaling wisps of serpentine breath. This was its companion spirit fire, the Xian snakes by Yin, which had coexisted and grown alongside it through the ages, sharing the same roots. Did this innocent child truly believe that controlling this flame could harm it? However, the serpent's breath seemed to dissipate into the void, achieving nothing. The redirected flames, imbued with a cataclysmic force, scorched its very being. In an instant, the Xuanhua heavenly serpent was engulfed in raging flames. Its once glossy black scales rapidly charred and curled under the searing heat, releasing an acrid scent of burning flesh. The hissing Xuanhua heavenly serpent cried out in torment, its voice rife with anguish. In its enormous beastly eyes, a profound sense of incredulity was etched, an utter disbelief that its own innate spirit fire could turn against it. Within the flames, there lurked an unfamiliar, terrifying power that caused its very soul to tremble. Lippy snake, this is my Samadhi True Fire. It is not your mere flickering flame, echoed the child's voice once more, reminiscent of a devil's whisper. Slowly, it raised a hand and snapped its fingers. The fire scorching the Xuanhuatian snake seemed to respond to its master's call, blazing even more fervently. The flames dancing wildly as if intent on utterly consuming the Xuanhuatian snake. The Xuanhuatian snake thrashed in a desperate struggle, trying to escape the relentless flames that clung to it like a parasite. Its massive tail struck the ground with tremendous force, each impact creating a deep crater and sending shards of stone flying. Yet, all of this proved futile, as the Samadhi True Fire wrapped around it tightly, showing no signs of abating. Chapter 6. The Sovereign Xuanhuatian Snake? Begging for mercy, the Xuanhuatian snake was plunged into an abyss of panic and confusion, its enormous eyes filled with fear and disbelief. Everything unfolding before it surpassed the limits of its understanding, leaving it bewildered as to why the flame it had proudly possessed for countless years had suddenly transformed into a terrifying weapon in the hands of this enigmatic child. As if reborn, now specifically designed to annihilate it. Summoning all its demonic power, it attempted to resist the searing flames. The demonic energy surged forth like a tumultuous tide of darkness, continuously pouring from within to confront the flames that tormented it. However, this seemingly formidable resistance yielded little effect. The moment the demonic energy met the fire, it was as if ice had encountered a scorching sun, rapidly melting away. It could only watch helplessly as the flames gradually eroded its body, each inch of scorching pain inflicting excruciating torment that penetrated to the very marrow, as if seeking to shatter its soul entirely. The Xuanhuatian snake understood that such resistance was merely a desperate struggle for survival. If this conflagration was allowed to continue its rampage, it faced a singular fate, to be reduced to ashes, disappearing from this world without a trace. It was unwilling to accept this. As one of the overlords of this realm, how could it possibly fall in such a manner? Thus, it writhed in a frenzy, roaring and howling in an attempt to break free from the lethal flames through sheer brute force. Yet, the Samadhi True Fire clung to it like a parasite, unyielding to its struggles. In this life and death predicament, the Xuanhuatian snake found itself mercilessly scorched by the Samadhi True Fire, the agony overwhelming it like a surging tide. Just as its consciousness began to fade and fear threatened to engulf it, a fragment of a long-buried memory surged through its chaotic mind like a flash of lightning. In a distant childhood, within the warmth of a nest, the gentle yet solemn voice of the mother echoed in the ears. Though our revered serpent clan is valiant and formidable in battle, the world is rife with powerful adversaries. Should you encounter an opponent against whom all your efforts prove futile, do not persist stubbornly, surrender gracefully, for preserving your life is of utmost importance. At that time, it nodded in naive understanding, not fully grasping the weight of those words. However, upon reaching maturity, emboldened by formidable strength, it traversed this realm with unparalleled prowess, victories aplenty. That pride and confidence made it entirely forget the innocent exchange with its mother. Now, the Xuanhua heavenly serpent writhed in agony beneath the scorching embrace of the Samadhi True Fire, its massive form thrashing violently against the ground, kicking up a relentless storm of dust, enveloping the air in a haze. Each roll was accompanied by a heart-wrenching shriek, a cacophony of pain and despair. At last, in the throes of ceaseless torment, it could bear no more, laboriously parting its jaws to utter a trembling and indistinct plea. "Spare my life. I was wrong." The voice, once commanding and regal, now quivered with vulnerability, as it desperately hoped that the terrifying child would show mercy and grant a chance for survival. Yet, in the face of this malevolent child, seemingly conjured from the depths of the abyss. Could the Xuanhua heavenly serpent truly secure a glimmer of hope? Despair filled its heart, yet a flicker of chance lingered. In this desperate predicament, fighting seemed futile, and fleeing was impossible. Thus, begging for mercy became the sole lifeline, albeit as fragile as a flickering candle in the wind. Su-yi, equally astonished, had anticipated a formidable struggle, yet found that merely wielding the Samadhi True Fire was sufficient to compel the once dominant Xuanhua heavenly serpent to kneel in supplication. He had yet to summon the Hunyuan silk, let alone the recently unlocked fire spear. These formidable artifacts had not yet revealed their full potential. Although the demonic child Nezha bore an unseemly visage, exuding an aura of malevolence that hardly suggested a righteous character, Su-yi understood, thanks to the teachings of Li Jing and Yin Shinyang, that at Nezha's core lay an unwavering righteousness. Regarding the Xuanhua heavenly serpent, he had no intention of delivering a fatal blow. His actions were merely the whims of a mischievous child seeking amusement. Is this truly the extent of your pleas? The hoarse voice resonated, akin to the rasping of sandpaper, imbued with a nonchalant languor. In this space saturated with potent demonic energy and searing heat, such a voice rang like celestial music, piercing directly into the ears of the Xuanhua heavenly serpent. With great difficulty, it lifted its head, its enormous eyes reflecting the relief and trepidation of surviving a calamity. It discerned that the bone-corroding flames, akin to a persistent curse, were gradually receding from its form. The once roaring Samadhi True Fire, which had threatened to consume it entirely, was now receding slowly, leaving only wisps of smoke in its wake. Its body was a pitiful sight, vast scales charred and curled, peeling away to reveal the singed flesh beneath, exposing stark white bones beneath the charred remains. Even though I had previously summoned all my demonic power to resist, the ferocity of the flames was simply too terrifying, scorching deep into my bones. However, fortunately, all of it has come to an end. Compared to the despair I felt moments ago when I thought I would perish on the spot, the pain I now endure seems almost bearable. In the enormous eyes of the Xuanhua heavenly serpent, remnants of panic from surviving a calamity lingered, intertwined with an unshakable disbelief. I had believed that my demise was inevitable at the hands of this demonic child, that the dreadful flames would reduce me to mere ashes. Yet at this moment, this child of darkness halted so effortlessly, as if this life-threatening battle had been nothing more than a trivial jest. Without a hint of hesitation, its colossal form wriggled laboriously, retrieving a token from its storage space. Upon grasping the token, the Xuanhua heavenly serpent paused momentarily, yet now, to preserve its life, it had no choice but to part with it. This was a treasure I had cherished for some time, a token of apology from the little serpent, trembling with a mix of eagerness to appease and an overwhelming sense of loss. The Hunyuan nailing token, capable of absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for personal cultivation, could significantly enhance the speed of one's training, recoverable, valued at 13,000 fortune points. Su-yi's expression remained unchanged, yet he extended his hand to accept the small token. Consider yourself wise, he rasped, his voice tinged with a hint of childlike playfulness. The Xuanhua heavenly serpent trembled slightly upon hearing this, eagerly nodding, as if fearing Su-yi would reconsider, and swiftly retreated into the distance. Su-yi turned his gaze towards the distance where Xiao Linglong stood, uttering no words as he prepared to depart. His petite figure, amidst the swirling dust and curling smoke, exuded a sense of nonchalance and defiance. His face, marked with dark circles, bore an expression that hinted at lingering excitement from the battle, as if he had merely engaged in an enjoyable game. Just then, a somewhat urgent voice abruptly broke the silence. Young friend, are you interested in heavenly treasures? Chapter 7. More money needed. Su-yi continued to walk forward, seemingly oblivious to the urgent voice, his footsteps unwavering, embodying a blend of stubbornness and ease. The spirit maiden, who was attached to Xiao Linglong, grew increasingly anxious. Her decision to speak arose from two motivations. First, despite the demonic aura surrounding this young demon, he exhibited a childlike disposition. The confrontation with the Xuanhua heavenly serpent appeared to him as mere amusement. I had anticipated he would ruthlessly slay the Xuanhua heavenly serpent, yet he ultimately chose to let it go, revealing a glimmer of potential for communication and collaboration. Second, with the Xuanhua heavenly serpent having fled, the first fire seed required for the celestial fire technique, the Xian snake Bai Yin, was now beyond my reach. After this encounter, the Xuanhua heavenly serpent would undoubtedly seek refuge in a concealed location, making it exceedingly difficult to track it down again. In desperation, the spirit maiden could only place her hopes on this enigmatic young demon before her. She is aware of a hidden realm where the ancient ninth-ranked, the blue lotus earth fire, resides. This was initially intended as her second or even third source of fire to collect. At this moment, if a collaboration could be achieved, the first that Xiao Linglong absorbed might very well be exchanged for the blue lotus earth fire. Although the difficulty has escalated, the potential rewards are boundless upon success. Ling Ji, noticing that the demonic child Su Yi seems entirely indifferent to her calls, departs on his own accord, pushing her to the brink of her patience. In an instant, glimmers of white light began to emanate from Xiao Linglong's side, followed by the gradual manifestation of a hazy figure, Ling Ji herself. Master, with her body regained. Xiao Linglong's tone bore an unmistakable urgency, her eyes filled with astonishment and confusion. She could not comprehend why her typically cautious mentor would appear in this ethereal form at such a critical moment. Ling Ji was indeed deeply concerned. She was currently in a spiritual state, and to appear so recklessly was to expose herself. Yet, in pursuit of a slim chance to collaborate with the demonic child, she took the risk, for otherwise, Xiao Linglong might remain oblivious to the whereabouts of her first. The demonic child Su Yi, who had been advancing, finally came to a halt. He slowly turned around, wearing an expression of keen interest, his gaze fixed directly upon Ling Ji. At that moment, she appeared somewhat illusory, as her spirit form floated ethereally. Clad in a resplendent white palace gown, every movement radiated grace and nobility. Her snow-white hair cascaded freely, contrasting starkly with her remarkably youthful visage, features exquisitely carved as if by divine hands, embodying unparalleled beauty. Even in her stillness, she exuded an aura of unyielding authority that commanded respect and caution. Turns out it's not an old man, but rather an old woman, came a raspy voice, casually dismissive. Upon hearing this, Ling Ji was struck with profound astonishment, even in her spectral state. Countless thoughts flashed through her mind, indicating that from the very beginning, this enigmatic demonic child had already sensed her presence. Indeed, if we are to engage in trade, what is the point of hiding? Su Yi's lips curled into a mischievous smile. In that moment, he focused his will, summoning the swirling Mingtian Ling that encircled him. The Mingtian Ling floated forth like a lively creature, and with a push of his legs, he leaped onto it, embodying the spirit of a playful child, swaying back and forth as if on a swing. Witnessing this scene, Xiao Linglong momentarily stood in shock. Previously, she had witnessed the formidable power and bizarre tactics displayed by the demonic child during his battle with the Xuanhua heavenly serpent, filling her with awe and fear. Yet now, observing Su Yi frolicking on the Mingtian Ling, she truly realized that he was, at his core, merely a child. Ling Ji's attention was instantly captivated by the Mingtian Ling beneath Su Yi. At this moment, her gaze sharpened, and with her profound understanding of magical artifacts, she immediately discerned that this seemingly ordinary red silk was, in fact, far from simple. An indescribable aura subtly emanated from the mystical fabric, a distinct essence characteristic of celestial tier treasures. She couldn't help but gasp, her heart stirred by tumultuous waves of astonishment. Celestial tier artifacts are rare treasures coveted by countless cultivators. In this world, the appearance of such a treasure is sufficient to incite a bloody and fierce competition. Yet, the mischievous child before her seemed utterly indifferent, treating it as a mere plaything. Ling Ji was profoundly shaken, her thoughts tangled like a chaotic web. To regard a celestial tier artifact as a toy, what kind of terrifying lineage could produce a child of such caliber? What remarkable background does this mischievous child possess? Taking a deep breath, she endeavored to calm the tempest within, slightly bowing towards Su Yi, who was swaying atop the mystical fabric, and spoke softly, "Young friend, to be candid, within the enigmatic and desolate ancient wasteland lies a remarkably concealed secret realm." She paused, her gaze fixed intently on Su Yi, hoping to catch a glimmer of interest on his face. Su Yi, however, displayed no reaction. Ling Ji, feeling a tinge of disappointment, continued, "In that secret realm resides the ancient ninth-ranked anomalous fire, the azure lotus earth fire. I have no interest in that. Can the azure lotus earth fire surpass my Samadhi True Fire?" Su Yi replied, bursting into a sharp, childlike laughter, yet his grin, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth, added an unsettling edge. Almost immediately, a fierce blaze erupted around him without warning, illuminating the entire realm with an intense radiance. Once the Samadhi True Fire manifested, its formidable power unleashed a violent force that twisted and contorted the very fabric of space. The surrounding air seemed to be manipulated by an unseen hand, as spatial rifts tore open like gaping wounds, spreading forth with a hissing sound. Ling Ji felt the terrifying flames up close, her very soul trembled. As if pierced by countless steel needles or scorched upon an open flame, each inch of her essence assailed by unbearable agony. Under this intense heat, her spiritual form began to distort and fade, as if it might be completely consumed and dissipated by the flames at any moment. This level of fire surpassed her comprehension. In her understanding, the ancient first anomalous fire, the Emperor Flame, was the ultimate existence in the world. Yet, the Samadhi True Fire before her was exaggeratedly more powerful. The searing heat that rushed toward her instilled a profound sense that this flame did not originate from their realm, but rather from a higher, mysterious domain. No longer hesitating, she turned to Xiao Linglong. Take out the Qingmu Ding. Xiao Linglong promptly retrieved her spatial ring, directly producing the Qingmu Ding. The Qingmu Ding, a treasure of celestial rank, possesses the ability to provide earth-grade elixirs with a success rate of 50% and enhances their efficacy by 30%. It can withstand the exotic flames required for celestial-grade elixirs, but all we require from you is to help us subdue the Qinglian earth fire. And the Qingmu Ding shall be yours. Sui glanced at it. Recoverable, valued at 34,000 luck points. He slightly tilted his head, a smile curling at the corners of his mouth, yet the deep, dark circles under his eyes appeared even more pronounced in the flickering firelight, accentuating his sharp fangs, rendering him particularly eerie. An increase in compensation is necessary. Chapter 8, Heavenly Court, Hidden Sect. Upon hearing Su Yi's demand for more compensation, Ling Ji and Xiao Linglong were momentarily taken aback. A hint of distress flashed across Ling Ji's face. Offering a treasure as rare as the Qingmu Ding as a bargaining chip required immense resolve, yet this demonic child seemed unsatisfied. After a brief silence, Ling Ji gritted her teeth and said, "Young friend, the Qingmu Ding is an exceedingly rare treasure, coveted by countless practitioners in the cultivation realm. It is the only treasure I have left." Her voice trembled slightly, tinged with urgency and helplessness. However, Su Yi appeared unfazed, leisurely swinging his legs as he reclined on the Huan Tian Ling, and remarked, "Just a Qingmu Ding is insufficient to entice me. While the Qinglian earth fire may not compare to my Samadhi True Fire, subduing it will undoubtedly be a troublesome endeavor. If the benefits are lacking, I shan't labor for free." With that, he toyed with the edge of the Huan Tian Ling, the eerie smile on his face becoming more pronounced, his eyes glinting with cunning light. Ling Ji lowered her gaze, lost in thought, her eyes inadvertently falling upon Su Yi's bare feet, which sparked an idea within her. She swiftly retrieved an item from her ring, and in an instant, a wave of scorching heat enveloped them. The Qian Finshin boots, an earth-grade treasure. Allow the wearer to tread upon blazing flames, annihilating all in their path, making them ideal for practitioners of fire-based techniques. Ling Ji lifted her gaze, a glimmer of hope in her eyes, and cautiously proposed, "Young friend, while these boots may not match the Qingmu Ding in value, they are certainly a rare find. Donning them, in conjunction with your Samadhi True Fire, will surely elevate your prowess. What do you think?" Upon hearing this, Su Yi's gaze settled on the Qian Finshin boots. He beckoned with his hand, and the boots floated into his grasp. A smile graced his lips as he slipped them onto his small feet, the boots fitting perfectly. The bright red boots, adorned with swirling patterns reminiscent of flowing flames, were indeed visually striking. Recoverable, valued at 11,000 destiny points. The item is quite admirable. Yet I have my own footwear. Su Yi understood that should he wear these Qian Finshin boots atop the Fenghua wheel, it was only a matter of time before the boots would be reduced to ashes. Unfortunately, he was not yet adept enough in his portrayal of the demonic child Nezha, and the splendid Fenghua wheel had yet to be unlocked. The thought of the Fenghua wheel transforming into the flying pig elicited a glimmer of anticipation in Su Yi's eyes. Then, with a swift motion, he kicked off the boots. Su Yi regarded Ling Ji and Xiao Linglong with keen interest, observing their momentary silence, which cast a somewhat somber atmosphere. A chill coursed through Ling Ji's heart. She was acutely aware that the crimson flame boots and the greenwood cauldron were among the most precious items they could offer. Should these fail to impress the devilish youth before them, the opportunity to collaborate with him in exploring the secret realm for the coveted blue lotus earth fire would likely be lost. Nevertheless, for the sake of Xiao Linglong's cultivation, Ling Ji gritted her teeth, determined to risk venturing into the perilous secret realm, even if hope seemed faint. Without the presence of extraordinary flames, the heavenly fire technique would be rendered utterly futile, just as she was steeped in bitterness and contemplating abandoning the idea of cooperation with Su Yi. A sly smile suddenly graced his face. "Very well," he said, "but since we are heading to a secret realm, it is certain that it conceals numerous celestial treasures. In that case, all treasures must belong to me. Ling Ji was momentarily taken aback, but quickly nodded in agreement without hesitation. Deal. Su Yi's satisfaction was palpable as he leaped down from the mysterious heaven silk, landing gracefully on the ground, brushing off non-existent dust from his attire. However, before we proceed, there are a few matters I must clarify, he continued, his tone shifting to one of earnest seriousness. Let us lay the groundwork for this transaction. If we encounter dangers that exceed my limits, I shall not foolishly assist you to the end. I may very well leave at a moment's notice, and you must be fully aware of this. Though Ling Ji felt a twinge of helplessness, she slowly nodded, recognizing the validity of Su Yi's words. The essence of this transaction was to leverage Su Yi's strength to gain entry into the secret realm and subdue the blue lotus earth fire. Given Xiao Linglong's current capabilities, even approaching the entrance of the secret realm would be a formidable challenge. The mere chance to embark on this journey was already a rare blessing. How could they demand Su Yi to remain steadfast in the face of peril? Furthermore, this devilish youth was indeed their best collaborator. Had it been anyone else, they likely would have taken full advantage of their predicament, especially considering that the blue lotus earth fire, ranked 9th, was among the world's most exceptional extraordinary flames. I understand, my young friend, and there is no need for further elaboration. We are well aware of the stakes involved. Pleased by Ling Ji's understanding, Su Yi smiled. That is good to hear. I hope our collaboration proves fruitful. Thus, both parties reached a simple consensus, and the atmosphere began to ease, the earlier tension gradually dissipating. Ling Ji inclined slightly, a courteous smile gracing her features as she inquired, now that we have established a partnership, may I ask how I should address you? After a brief silence, Su Yi responded with a voice that, though youthful, carried a hint of raspiness. Nezha. Ling Ji silently repeated this name in her mind, confirming that she had never encountered such a figure in the cultivation world. Xiao Linglong's curiosity was piqued, prompting her to inquire further. Nezha, you appear quite young. May I ask about your guardians? Despite Nezha's formidable prowess, it was evident from their exchanges that he retained the essence of a child. How could his parents be so unconcerned as to allow him to venture out alone? Perhaps formidable protectors were lurking nearby. In that moment, Xiao Linglong belatedly realized that this was likely her teacher's intent. Upon hearing Xiao Linglong's question, Su Yi's enigmatic smile faltered momentarily, a flicker of complex emotions passing through his eyes before swiftly vanishing. He shrugged nonchalantly, declaring, who knows? They are probably preoccupied training the celestial soldiers of the heavenly court. Whether it be the legendary Li Tianwang or Li Jing from the tales of the magical boy Nezha, neither had much time for companionship. Clearly, this master and disciple duo harbored an intention to probe into his background. Su Yi decided to reveal the entirety of the mythological heavenly court. After all, with the accumulation of his experiences, it was merely a matter of time before he could embody such a persona. Heavenly court? Celestial soldiers? Ling Ji and Xiao Linglong were both taken aback, their faces painted with astonishment and confusion upon hearing these terms. Ling Ji furrowed her brow, contemplating. The heavenly court has never appeared in any records within the cultivation realm. Yet, the ability to nurture a being of Nezha's caliber and to present 2 heavenly artifacts is no small feat indeed. Ling Ji had also noticed the Qianquan circle adorning Su Yi's neck, which was undoubtedly a heavenly treasure. The heavenly court must represent a formidable power, perhaps a concealed sect from the central plains, not within the borders of the Zhou kingdom. Chapter 9. Let us play Jianzi. Seeking continued reading. Observing the puzzled expressions of the master and disciple, Su Yi chose not to elaborate further and casually strolled to the other side. He tilted his head slightly, gazing at the azure sky. Ever since the Fengshen, my mother has become a bedside matron and no longer calls me Nezha. My father, as the pagoda-bearing heavenly king, has no time to play Jianzi with me anymore, Su Yi murmured softly, his voice tinged with melancholy. Xiao Linglong, keenly attuned to the shift in Su Yi's emotions, noticed that the once mischievous boy had suddenly descended into a state of sorrow. What could have transpired? Xiao Linglong wondered, perplexed as to why mentioning his elders had rendered him so somber. Could it be that a conflict had driven him to sneak away? She speculated silently, hesitant to voice her inquiries. Conversely, Ling Ji's focus diverged entirely. Upon hearing the title of pagoda-bearing heavenly king, her heart surged with tumultuous waves. However, it was the subsequent phrase that struck her with greater impact. Fengshen. What kind of existence possesses the power to confer divinity? Moreover, given the title of heavenly king, it seemed he did not belong to the highest echelon. Ling Ji pondered in silence. Nezha not only possessed 2 celestial treasures, but had also attained the formidable golden body realm. With such a terrifying familial background, It was astonishing that he merely held a position in the heavenly court responsible for training celestial soldiers and generals. This left Ling Ji filled with curiosity and reverence towards the origins and might of the heavenly court. What exactly was this heavenly court? How fearsome could it truly be? These questions swirled incessantly in her mind, stirring a tempest of thoughts, yet providing no clarity. While tumultuous waves roiled within her heart, her exterior maintained an illusion of tranquility. She was acutely aware that, even if she had not been betrayed by her disciple and stood at the pinnacle of her cultivation, she could hardly bestow 2 celestial treasures upon a junior. Reflecting on her past, she recalled possessing but 1 imperial weapon and 4 celestial treasures, hardly a fortune, but rather the culmination of her years of arduous cultivation in the realm. Yet here was Nezha, effortlessly presenting 2 celestial treasures. What might the formidable king of the tower behind him be capable of? Taking a deep breath, she forcibly subdued her inner shock and began to calculate. Judging by the circumstances, this king of the tower must be a being of at least imperial caliber. A more terrifying thought flashed through her mind, perhaps even an immortal. The mere consideration of this possibility constricted her heart. An emperor stood at the apex of the cultivation world, possessing the power to reshape the heavens and earth with a mere wave of their hand. Yet now, the emperor merely served in the heavenly court to train celestial warriors. What then could be the status of the highest authority within the heavenly court? This question weighed heavily upon Ling Ji, akin to a colossal stone pressing down on her heart. Her back was already soaked with cold sweat, and an indescribable fear stealthily crept into her consciousness. In her understanding, she was a formidable force at her peak in the cultivation realm, yet before the heavenly court, she felt as insignificant as an ant. The mere contemplation of the heavenly court's terrifying might left her legs trembling, a visceral awe emanating from the depths of her soul. In the next moment, however, Ling Ji felt a surge of excitement, her eyes sparkling with determination. Initially, she had high hopes for their expedition to the ancient wasteland in search of the blue lotus earth fire, but now, with the revelation of Nezha's astonishing background, her confidence swelled significantly. The terrifying strength and unfathomable backing of Nezha undoubtedly served as their most solid support for this endeavor. Her gaze drifted toward Xiao Linglong, and her mind raced. If Xiao Linglong could forge a good relationship with Nezha, it would be nothing short of extraordinary. It would mean she had gained a friend with a formidable background. Although the Lingjian sect was considered a top-tier faction in the state of Zhou, a victory in their confrontation would inevitably invite retaliation. Presently, in her soul state, her strength was significantly diminished, making it challenging to ensure Xiao Linglong's safety. However, with Nezha now in the picture, the circumstances had changed entirely. Thus, the 3-year agreement no longer required such concern. As long as Xiao Linglong could maintain a good rapport with Nezha, even in the face of retaliation, Nezha's assistance would likely help them evade disaster. A sudden flash of golden light flickered in Ling Ji's eyes, and she swiftly channeled her spiritual energy to communicate with Xiao Linglong. Linglong, observed Nezha. Due to his parents' overwhelming busyness, he is, in essence, a child profoundly yearning for affection, which drives him to seek diversions everywhere. As long as you extend genuine kindness and truly become his friend, disregarding the unfathomable celestial forces behind him, Nezha himself can offer you immense support. You must understand that winning the 3-year agreement relies not solely on personal strength. One's background is equally paramount. Ling Ji's voice resonated within Xiao Linglong's consciousness, akin to a lightning bolt illuminating her mind, bestowing upon her a sudden enlightenment. Indeed, recalling her first encounter with Nezha, she remembered him hunched over, his steps light and unsteady, his demeanor exuding a certain awkwardness, complete with pronounced dark circles under his eyes. His appearance was far from impressive. Yet, upon reflection, he was merely a child, one who had lacked parental companionship and love during his formative years. Moreover, they had now forged a partnership, poised to embark together towards the secret realm in pursuit of the azure lotus earth fire. The significance of this fire for Xiao Linglong's cultivation path was self-evident. It was akin to a rebirth. Should she seize this opportunity to cultivate a profound friendship with Nezha, her future endeavors would undoubtedly be far more favorable. Xiao Linglong took a deep breath, then gracefully approached Nezha with determination. Her steps were light, yet resolute, her gaze radiating sincerity and warmth. Upon reaching him, she gently bent down and, without hesitation, embraced Nezha tenderly. I am Xiao Linglong. Let us become friends. Her voice rang clear and melodious, laced with tenderness and anticipation, echoing softly in the air. Who wants to be friends with you? Nezha wriggled slightly in Xiao Linglong's embrace, an expression of mild resistance flickering across his face. However, This seemingly defiant gesture lacked true strength, merely a symbolic motion devoid of genuine effort to escape. A subtle smile graced Xiao Linglong's lips, revealing her understanding. She keenly perceived that Nezha's apparent reluctance was merely the characteristic stubbornness of a child. After all, Nezha was still just a child, despite his formidable powers and mysterious origins. Deep within, he undoubtedly longed for companionship. "I will play whatever you wish, sister," Su-yi exclaimed, ignited by excitement, unable to contain himself any longer. In an instant, he executed a nimble somersault, breaking free from Xiao Linglong's embrace. Upon landing, he flashed a broad grin at her, his sharp teeth glinting in the sunlight. "Then let us play shuttlecock." As soon as the words left his lips, Su-yi unexpectedly produced a shuttlecock from seemingly nowhere. With his arm lifted high, he forcefully hurled the shuttlecock into the air. In the blink of an eye, his body moved like a bolt of black lightning, tracing a perfect arc of 720 degrees before launching a swift kick towards Xiao Linglong. The shuttlecock whistled through the air with alarming speed, leaving no time for reaction. So fast, Xiao Linglong's expression stiffened, and she was unable to evade it, taking the high-speed shuttlecock head-on. She was sent flying backwards like a kite severed from its string, crashing heavily to the ground. The friction between her back and the earth ignited a searing pain, followed by a relentless fit of coughing, her throat feeling as though it had been sandpapered, dry and agonizing. No wonder no one wished to play with Nezha. This was not merely a game of shuttlecock, it was an assault on me. In the fleeting moment before her consciousness faded, Xiao Linglong heard a raspy voice reverberating through the air. "I am Li Nezha." Chapter 10. He fears to kick you to death. Cough, cough, cough. As Xiao Linglong slowly regained consciousness, she found herself beneath a low-hanging night sky, adorned with twinkling stars. "I am still alive?" A look of bewilderment crossed her face as she instinctively touched the spot where the shuttlecock had struck her. There was only a faint trace of pain, and no internal injuries remained. "Oh dear, I didn't even use much force, yet I lay here for an entire afternoon. How utterly dull." A familiar voice suddenly pierced the silence beside her. Strangely, it no longer sounded as harsh as it had upon their first encounter. Instead, it carried a hint of warmth. Simultaneously, Ling Ji's voice resonated softly in Xiao Linglong's mind. "Nezha did not strike with lethal intent. Somehow, the shuttlecock lost its force upon reaching you, delivering only a strong impact. He also administered medicine to heal the internal injuries you sustained from the Xuanhua heavenly serpent." After witnessing everything, Ling Ji had retreated into her sea of consciousness to recuperate, as maintaining her spiritual form was no trivial matter. Sitting up, Xiao Linglong gazed at the bored Nezha nearby, her heart a tumult of emotions. This child, seemingly reckless, acted with an unexpected sense of discretion. She felt a surge of gratitude. Just then, Nezha's boisterous voice rang out once more. "Weren't we going to play shuttlecock? Let us continue." Upon hearing this, Xiao Linglong's expression, once tinged with relief at having survived, became frozen in disbelief. The smile vanished from her face, and she stood as if struck by a spell. Frustration bubbled within her as she mentally lamented. "This foolish child has no sense of moderation. I once thought he was showing mercy, but it is clear now that he is nothing but a complete rascal. That last kick nearly sent me to my demise, and now he wishes to continue kicking? Is he intent on taking my life?" With this thought, the corners of Xiao Linglong's mouth twitched involuntarily as she looked at Nezha's eager expression, feeling utterly at a loss. Observing Xiao Linglong's reluctance, Su-yi's once bright smile dimmed instantly, losing its luster. The playful enthusiasm within him was extinguished like a splash of cold water, dissipating almost entirely in an instant. In a state of utter boredom, he turned away, lifted his foot, and absent-mindedly kicked a nearby pebble, which rolled and clattered in response to his nudges. "If I'm not playing, then so be it. I didn't want to play anyway," Su-yi muttered, his tone imbued with a childish stubbornness and a sense of loss. No sooner had he spoken than he strode over to the campfire and flopped down with a thud. The mystical fabric wrapped around him seemed to gain a will of its own, cocooning him tightly. In the blink of an eye, Su-yi's form was obscured, leaving only a softly glowing red sphere that rose and fell gently with his breath. The flames of the campfire licked the night sky, occasionally crackling with lively sounds. Xiao Linglong gazed at Nezha's dejected expression, her heart gripped by an invisible hand, shattering into pieces in an instant. She suddenly realized that beneath the awe-inspiring backdrop and formidable powers, Nezha was merely a child yearning for companionship and play. Witnessing his crestfallen face, her empathy burgeoned like tender sprouts breaking through the earth in spring. Ultimately, unable to contain herself, she exclaimed, "I have no reluctance in playing shuttlecock. With my strength at the 9th level of the outer realm, How could I possibly fear it? Come, Nezha, let us continue. Her voice rang clear and resolute, resounding through the tranquil night. As soon as her words fell, the tightly coiled mystical fabric seemed to receive a command, slowly unwinding bit by bit. Nezha's little head cautiously peeked out, his face etched with hesitation and deep uncertainty, softly inquiring, "Do you truly wish to play shuttlecock with me?" Upon seeing this, Xiao Linglong resolutely patted her chest, responding emphatically, "Indeed. Let us do it." The moment those 4 words escaped her lips, the mystical fabric fully unraveled, swiftly wrapping around Nezha once more. Simultaneously, the shuttlecock that had previously sent Xiao Linglong flying reappeared. With his arm raised high, Nezha forcefully tossed the shuttlecock upward, then swiftly kicked it with great vigor. The shuttlecock whistled through the air, accompanied by a rushing wind, hurtling towards Xiao Linglong at an alarming speed. Unsurprisingly, the impact once again propelled her through the air. Her body soared like a kite severed from its string, tracing a chaotic arc across the night sky before crashing heavily to the ground. Amidst the billowing dust, her muffled groans could be faintly heard, and Lingji's voice suddenly resonated in her mind. Nezha's physical strength alone possesses the destructive power of the 9th level of the outer realm. It's utterly astonishing. Lingji's tone brimmed with disbelief. This physical prowess could only be described as innate divine strength. For others, even with celestial artifacts, reaching such a level would be a formidable challenge, yet he seemed to possess this ability inherently. Such talent was indeed extraordinary. Lingji's words intertwined with awe and astonishment. Xiao Linglong, too, was momentarily stunned, realizing that Nezha had not utilized any spiritual power whatsoever. Kicking the shuttlecock is simply kicking the shuttlecock. Nezha stood still, his small figure elongated by the flickering light of the campfire, his face adorned with the innocent excitement of a child, completely unaware of the profound impact his actions had on Xia Linglong and Lingji. Was he truly just a child? Xia Linglong mused silently within herself. They were aware that some ancient beings could maintain their youthful appearance. Could Nezha be one of those enigmatic entities? Noticing Xia Linglong's prolonged silence, Nezha, with a hint of urgency, called out, "Why aren't you getting up? Hurry, keep kicking." His youthful voice exuded no malice, only a fervent passion for the game and an eagerness for companionship. Xia Linglong cleared her throat, striving to steady her breath, pondering internally that if he were indeed an ancient creature, he wouldn't be so eager to engage in a simple game of shuttlecock kicking. Nevertheless, there was a particular point that weighed heavily on her mind. After a moment of hesitation, she could not resist asking, "Nezha, may I inquire how old you are?" Upon hearing this, Su-yi turned his gaze toward Xia Linglong, and beneath the shadow of his pronounced dark circles, his face erupted into an exaggerated grin, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth without reservation. To the unknowing observer, one might easily mistake him for an emerging creature of the night. 3 years old should be 3 years old, right? Su-yi scratched his head, his tone tinged with uncertainty, as if he were not entirely sure of his own age. Instantly, Lingji and Xia Linglong stood frozen in disbelief, their minds blank, soon engulfed by a tempest of astonishment. Although they had harbored suspicions about Nezha's youthful age, the mere phrase 3 years old should be 3 years old struck their ears like a thunderous explosion, sending shockwaves through their consciousness. Inside, Xia Linglong's mind screamed, where on earth did this little monster come from? At merely 3 years of age, his physical strength could rival that of a formidable warrior at the 9th level of the exterior realm. No, his corporeal strength far surpassed that. He was merely controlling his might to avoid inflicting harm. Chapter 11. Did you not say, do not underestimate the youth in their poverty? Suddenly, a glimmer of light appeared on the horizon, slicing through the night like a keen sword. Gradually, the sun's silhouette emerged, radiating a fervent glow. In an instant, the brilliance surged forth like a tidal wave, sweeping away the darkness of the great wasteland. Su-yi yawned as he rose, having enjoyed a particularly restful night. The previous day's performance had been exceptionally fruitful. Within a single day, his progress had surged from 39 to 57. An increase of 18, a pace infinitely swifter than when he had initially departed from Qingyun City, which had taken nearly a month to reach 39. Given these circumstances, Su-yi was exceedingly satisfied and had indeed enjoyed a refreshing slumber. Stretching languidly, he instinctively glanced toward the spot where Xia Linglong had slept the previous night, only to find it empty and devoid of her presence. The campfire that was ignited yesterday has long extinguished, leaving behind only a pile of cold ashes. Although he slept soundly last night, he was not entirely unprepared. After all, forming an alliance with this master and disciple was one aspect. Yet, He was acutely aware that his primary aim was to leverage these two to enhance his performance value. Additionally, he sought to explore the enigmatic secret realm, hoping to uncover some extraordinary treasures to exchange for destiny points. Thus, he kept the celestial silk unfurled. Although its current performance level was only at the heavenly tier due to his relatively low acting rank, it possessed all the essential attributes: warning capabilities and automatic defense, providing Su-Yi ample time to react. Reflecting on yesterday, his gains were indeed substantial. He had acquired 58,000 destiny points, supplemented by an additional 3,000 from a month's worth of sign-ins after departing from Qingyan City, bringing his total to 61,000 destiny points. This sum was sufficient to summon a character of golden caliber. However, he understood that having Nezha already diminished the significance of obtaining another character of the same tier. It would be more prudent to focus on maximizing his performance value and striving for a higher reward pool to gain even more formidable assistance. Just as Su-Yi rose, he spotted Xiao Linglong approaching with a wild rabbit in hand, her steps light and buoyant. His gaze inadvertently fell upon her, lingering on her chest for several moments. This was not driven by any primal instinct, but rather a remnant of their interaction the previous night when, despite his efforts to moderate his inherent strength to merely the 9th layer of the external realm, the cumulative impact of their play had overwhelmed Xiao Linglong. The final strike had even resulted in a fractured rib. Observing her now, moving with relative ease, he felt a sense of relief. Her journey would likely not be hindered. Xiao Linglong, sensing Su-Yi's gaze, felt her cheeks flush slightly, being aware that she was being scrutinized in a sensitive area. Although he appeared merely a 3-year-old child, the sensation of being watched stirred an inexplicable shyness within her. Nevertheless, she quickly regained her composure and greeted Su-Yi. "You're awake. I've already drawn some water. You can freshen up shortly. I'll roast this rabbit for breakfast." Su-Yi nodded, his expression mirroring a hint of embarrassment as he asked, "Is your injury all right from yesterday?" Xiao Linglong was taken aback, not anticipating Su-Yi would inquire about her condition. Upon reflection, she recognized the innocence of the child. He bore no malicious intent. Ultimately, it was her own inadequacy that rendered her unable to withstand his strength. Had she reached the golden body realm, she would never have suffered a fractured rib. Thus, she hurriedly replied, "It's nothing serious. Last night, while I was sleeping, I applied the healing balm concocted by my teacher. It had no remarkable effect on my internal injuries, but for my fractured bones, it worked quite well. By morning, I was much improved." Su-Yi seemed to have suddenly recalled something amusing, a mischievous grin spreading across his face, revealing his sharp teeth without reservation. Upon seeing this smile, Xiao Linglong's heart sank, sensing impending trouble. In the past, whenever Nezha displayed such an expression, it invariably signaled mischief and misfortune ahead. Sure enough, the next moment, the word she dreaded most echoed in her ears. "Come, let us practice kicking the shuttlecock this morning." Hearing this, Xiao Linglong felt utterly deflated. Memories of her previous painful experiences flooded back, getting knocked out the first time, and her ribs broken the second. If there were to be a third, she truly feared she might not withstand it. "Look at how frightened you are," Su-Yi chuckled, eyeing Xiao Linglong. Nezha delighted in teasing others, and now, early in the morning, tormenting Xiao Linglong had become his foremost desire. At that moment, a notification sound echoed in Su-Yi's mind. Proficiency in role-playing, 59. Just as he had surmised, upon awakening, his proficiency began to rise continuously, a promising omen. Surveying his surroundings, Su-Yi inquired, "Where is that old woman, Lingji? I haven't seen her." Xiao Linglong frowned slightly, feeling displeased by Su-Yi's reference to her teacher as an old woman, yet she patiently explained. "Teacher consumed soul energy yesterday and needs to rest for a while. However, she has already informed me of the route, and once we finish breakfast, we can set off directly." Su-Yi nodded, recalling the events of the previous night. Indeed, during the latter half, Lingji's spirit had become ethereal and unstable, appearing exceedingly weak. After breakfast, Xiao Linglong nimbly extinguished the rekindled bonfire, squinting to discern the direction before resolutely setting off. For her, time was of the essence, and she dared not delay, especially since she had yet to absorb her first unique flame. Su-Yi followed leisurely behind her, maintaining a steady pace. As they traveled throughout the morning, the two engaged in casual conversation, their relationship growing more familiar and warm. Su-Yi, curious about Xiao Linglong's past, began to inquire about her background, learning some fundamental details. When he heard about her experiences, he could not help but burst into laughter. "An annulled engagement? Ha! Your fiancé is actually the foremost genius of the Lingjin sect, and you endured the 3rd level of body refinement for a full 4 years. Not to mention that 3-year agreement. In Su Yi's eyes sparkled with mockery, and as if struck by a whimsical thought, he inquired further, "Have you ever uttered the phrase, 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river, do not underestimate the youth in poverty?" Upon hearing this, Xiao Linglong's face flushed slightly, and a sense of embarrassment washed over her. She realized that her earlier words had been born out of a moment of anger. Hesitantly, she murmured, "How did you know?" Su Yi chuckled heartily, clapping his hands in delight. "Ha, you really did say it." Chapter 12. I come from the upper realm. Su Yi followed closely behind Xiao Linglong, his pace unrelenting as he pressed on. "Since your former fiancé is the foremost genius of the Lingjin sect, what realm has he attained?" At this, Xiao Linglong's previously relaxed expression dimmed considerably. She was acutely aware that at her age, reaching the 9th level of the external realm was already a remarkable feat within the state. Yet when compared to the genius disciples of the first-rate Lingjin sect in the Zhou Kingdom, the disparity was still monumental. His name is Nailan. He broke through to the external realm a year ago, and now he is likely at the 2nd or even 3rd level of the golden body realm, she replied, her voice tinged with a hint of desolation. However, in the next moment, she quickly regained her composure. "As long as I can absorb the achieving the golden body realm may grant me a fighting chance." Upon hearing this, Su Yi's expression subtly shifted. He had gathered some understanding of the external and golden body realms through his experiences as a waiter and his journey thus far. Yet he had never truly grasped where he stood within these classifications. With a sense of curiosity, he posed a question: "How do I compare to that genius of the Lingjin sect?" Xiao Linglong gently shook her head. "I cannot ascertain your realm in comparison to his. And as I am merely at the 9th level of the external realm, I find it difficult to make a judgment." Yet her curiosity got the better of her. "Nezha, what exactly is your realm?" Being able to effortlessly crush the Xuanhua Tianxi undoubtedly indicates strength at the golden body realm. Reflecting on this, she couldn't help but marvel. At the age of 3, a golden body realm cultivator would indeed be considered a top-tier genius across the Eastern Wilderness. Not to mention, according to her teacher's conjectures, Nezha hailed from a mysterious power in the central continent. Su Yi tilted his head, a bemused smile gracing his features as he spread his hands. "In truth, I am not quite certain of my own realm." Xiao Linglong, upon hearing this, gazed at Su Yi in astonishment, her expression akin to someone beholding an extraordinary being from outer space. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she exclaimed, "How could you possibly be unaware of your realm? If you do not know, how have you managed to cultivate?" To traverse the path of cultivation without any awareness of your own realm is simply unheard of. Su Yi scratched his head, a peculiar smile playing on his lips as he confessed, "To be candid, I secretly descended to the lower realm and am not of this world. Hence my lack of familiarity with your methods of cultivation in their respective realms." Upon hearing this, Xiao Linglong was momentarily taken aback, then rolled her eyes, her expression clearly conveying disbelief, as if to say, "Do I look like a fool to you?" It was evident that she held no faith in Su Yi's explanation. She curled her lip and retorted, "Keep spinning your tales. If you're not from this world, then where do you hail from? Did you fall from the sky?" In her eyes, Su Yi's reasoning was far too far-fetched, merely an excuse to hide his true capabilities, or perhaps a ploy to amuse her. From their interactions thus far, it was clear that Nezha was nothing short of a mischievous child. Such thoughts were entirely reasonable. "You are not mistaken. I indeed fell from the heavens," he replied, raising a hand in a gesture of resignation. In these times, even honesty goes unrecognized. Su Yi was acutely aware that Xiao Linglong was not at all convinced by his words. However, his declaration of identity was part of a calculated strategy. He understood that the celestial forces of the heavenly court were non-existent in this realm, and his knowledge of this world was exceedingly limited. Rather than obscure the truth, he chose to directly assert that he did not belong to this realm, nor did the heavenly court fall within its domain, but rather belonged to a higher dimensional existence. He anticipated that when the time came for his destiny to accumulate sufficiently, he could draw upon a more impressive and awe-inspiring entity through a lottery, thereby completing this puzzle, which would undoubtedly astonish them even more. With this thought, a subtle smile graced Su Yi's lips. At that moment, however, the ring on Xiao Linglong's finger unexpectedly emanated a dazzling white light, swiftly transforming before their eyes into an exquisite beauty, Lingji, clad in garments as white as snow. Her hair danced lightly in the breeze, each step exuding an enchanting grace, reminiscent of a fairy stepping out from a painting. Her gaze swept slowly over Su Yi and Xiao Linglong, ultimately resting on Su Yi's face. A gentle smile gracing her lips as she spoke in a soft yet clear voice. "Regarding the matter of realms, I can elucidate it for the young friend. There are 7 major realms for practitioners in the Xiantian realm: body refinement, meridian opening, external manifestation, golden body, divine void, harmonization, and emperor. Each realm comprises 9 minor stages. Body refinement marks the initial stage of cultivation, where novices are akin to unrefined jade, requiring rigorous tempering and honing. Meridian opening is a further advancement beyond body refinement, where the practitioner's channels resemble hidden waterways, and the task is to unblock these pathways for the smooth circulation of vital energy. External manifestation signifies the beginning of the connection between the internal and external, allowing the practitioner to perceive various elemental attributes such as wind, fire, thunder, lightning, and water. Su Yi listened attentively, choosing not to interject. My disciple is currently at the external manifestation stage. She requires the tempering of exotic fire elements to break through. Upon successful advancement, she will reach the next stage, the golden body realm, which signifies a minor achievement in cultivation, allowing those with exceptional talent to comprehend the preliminary forces of the law. At this stage, one formally departs from the realm of mortals, commencing the arduous process of refining the golden body to forge the immortal essence. The Emperor realm represents the pinnacle that a cultivator can attain, with whispers of transcending to immortality and ascending to higher realms, although such claims remain unverified. Upon this mention, Ling Ji displayed a somewhat intricate expression. After listening, Su Yi's lips curled into a subtle, enigmatic smile, imbued with an elusive meaning that was difficult for others to decipher. A glimmer of light danced in his eyes, as if concealing boundless secrets, and he spoke leisurely. Now I comprehend the cultivation hierarchy in your domain. It appears that the Emperor realm you reference is merely the standard of heavenly soldiers ascending from the lower realms to the celestial court. He paused briefly before continuing. Perhaps it does not even reach the level of the true divine. Xiao Linglong gazed at Su Yi in astonishment. She recalled vividly that Nezha had mentioned his father. The pagoda-bearing heavenly king was responsible for training heavenly soldiers. If all these heavenly soldiers were of the Emperor realm, what an awe-inspiring force would that be? Ling Ji observed Su Yi with a knowing smile, softly remarking, "You truly are a mischievous child. If what you say is true, the celestial court's strength must be so formidable that the heavenly treasures would hardly hold any significance in your eyes. Given your background, with a father who trains the heavenly soldiers, and the soldiers themselves being of the Emperor realm, such a terrifying power would surely render even imperial treasures trivial, let alone mere heavenly artifacts." Su Yi chose not to provide any explanation. Meanwhile, Xiao Linglong let out a sigh of relief, recognizing her teacher's words held merit. If they exceed the Emperor level, those 2 treasures on Nezha must surely surpass the heavenly tier. Moreover, considering his avarice, I can't believe I fell for Nezha's tricks once again. Chapter 13. Unlocking the complete form of the demon pill. In the far west of the state of Zhou, the ancient desolate desert loomed like a shadow of death, weighing heavily upon the earth. Known as the life-forbidden zone, its brutal environment is sufficient to deter any would-be intruders. The blazing sun hung high, scorching the vast expanse of sand. A fierce wind howled through, whipping up clouds of yellow dust, producing a mournful roar as if it sought to consume all in its path. 1,000 miles of desolation enveloped the area. Here, water sources are as scarce as fleeting dreams, with the few oases surrounded by layers of peril. In this dire landscape, the laws of survival are starkly illustrated. The beasts that inhabit this realm are ferocious and brutal, fighting tooth and nail over the meager resources available for survival. Suddenly, a tempest swept through with the force of a tidal wave, as if an invisible giant hand recklessly stirred the swirling sands. In an instant, the silence of the ancient desolate desert was enveloped in dust, rendering visibility nearly non-existent. Amidst this chaotic shroud, 6 ghostly shadows quietly emerged, seeming to rise from the depths of a hellish abyss, appearing without warning in this dominion ruled by death and silence. The 6 figures were shrouded in black robes, their faces meticulously concealed, exuding an eerie aura that, even in their stillness, sent an inexplicable chill through the air, as if it had been frozen by their terrifying presence. Their formation was meticulously arranged, with one individual standing firmly at the center, akin to the alpha wolf among a pack, radiating an aura of dominance that established his authority without uttering a word. The 5 individuals behind him bowed their heads slightly, adopting a humble posture. Yet an undercurrent of lethal intent emanated from them, as if they were poised to leap into action at a moment's notice. As the onlookers were captivated by this uncanny scene, the figure at the forefront slowly raised his hand, his movements deliberate and unhurried, yet imbued with an undeniable gravitas. He gently removed his mask, revealing a visage of stark severity, his chiseled features and deep-set, frigid eyes seemed to harbor endless secrets and calculations that sent shivers down one's spine. Despite appearing to be no older than 30, the aura he exuded suggested a depth of experience and harshness that belied his youth. At the moment his face was unveiled, the 5 figures behind him bowed their heads even lower, nearly touching the ground, as if their submission was ingrained in their very bones. Continue the pursuit. That spirit cannot flee far. The stern man spoke, his voice low and gravelly, echoing as if it emerged from the depths of a hellish abyss, carrying an order that brooked no dissent. Amidst the howling winds of the vast desert, his command resonated clearly in the ears of all present. Yes, young master. The 5 cloaked figures echoed in unison, their voices hoarse yet synchronized. In the next instant, their forms flickered, transforming into 5 shadows that moved with the swiftness of phantoms, vanishing into the swirling sands of the ancient, desolate desert. The remaining black-robed man stood like a statue frozen in time, enveloped in an atmosphere of profound silence. After an indeterminate period, his figure began to waver, as if being gradually unraveled by an invisible force. First, his outline blurred, then his body resembled diluted ink, slowly turning translucent until, ultimately, he vanished completely amidst the roaring winds of the ancient wasteland, as if he had never graced this place with his presence. The path he traversed through the desolate desert appeared as a corridor ravaged by demons, presenting a scene of utter devastation. The land was scarred and charred, marked by signs of lightning strikes and fires, with gnarled blackened trails sprawling for miles like grotesque scars. The air was thick with the acrid stench of burnt earth, mingled with the metallic tang of blood, evoking a sense of nausea. Scattered along the way were numerous corpses, including massive beasts, their once mighty forms now riddled with wounds, emanating a foul odor of decay. Deep within the heart of the ancient desert, night descended like a vast, dark velvet drapery, soft yet undeniably oppressive. The fierce winds continued to wreak havoc in the distance, emitting a low growl, but within this small encampment, an unusual tranquility prevailed. The bonfire blazed vigorously, its flickering flames casting a warm glow upon Xiao Linglong's face as she diligently prepared the evening meal. In this desolate expanse of desert, ingredients were particularly precious. She carefully turned the pieces of meat on the rudimentary grill, and the enticing aroma gradually wafted through the air, intertwining with the pervasive scent of sand and grit. Su-yi, seated idly beside her, crossed his legs in a casual manner, propping himself up with his hands behind him as he gazed up at the hazy night sky, obscured by the swirling sands. After a moment, he withdrew his gaze, intrigued as he silently recited in his mind, opening his character panel. Host, Su-yi. Current role, the demon child Nezha. Progress of role-playing, 60. Abilities, fire control technique, true fire of Samadhi, innate divine strength, transformation technique, complete demon sphere. 3 heads and 6 arms, unlocked. Law of heaven and earth, locked. Artifacts, cosmic silk, universe ring, fire spear, wind fire wheel, locked. Current luck value, 58, 200. As he surveyed the data displayed on the panel, Su-yi furrowed his brow slightly. After 2 full days of travel, his role-playing value had stagnated in the latter half, refusing to increase. He understood that the rewards for repeating the same actions diminished over time. Nevertheless, the breakthrough of just 1 point held significant meaning, directly unlocking the demon sphere form. A glimmer of excitement flickered in Su-yi's eyes at this thought. This meant that the universe ring could finally be utilized. Previously, due to the sealing of the complete demon sphere form, the universe ring had been akin to a ferocious beast restrained, unable to be summoned, serving merely as an ordinary spatial ring with storage capabilities. Now, however, the true power of the universe ring was about to be unleashed. Marking a moment of joy for Su-yi, not far away, the enticing scent of roasted meat wafted through the air like an invisible hand, gently tugging at Su-yi's senses. He savored the aroma that enveloped him and marveled at the realization that Xiao Linglong, too, possessed her merits. Her cooking was indeed delectable. It was astonishing how such simple grilled meat could exude such an enticing fragrance. With this thought, Su-yi rose to his feet, hands casually tucked behind him, swaggering towards Xiao Linglong with an air of audacity, as if the entire ancient desert belonged to him. His footsteps kicked up the sand, creating a golden cloud of dust illuminated by the firelight. It's time to eat, Xiao Linglong remarked as she noticed Su-yi approaching. Her gaze swept across his triumphant expression, a slight smile gracing her lips, betraying a hint of amusement at his familiar bravado. The two of them settled directly on the sand and began to feast heartily. And indeed, The flavor of the wind sand wolf was unexpectedly delightful. How could it not be? This was the notorious wind sand wolf, a species infamous in the ancient desert, feared even by ordinary beasts of the golden body realm. At this moment, Ling Ji emerged from Xiao Linglong's ring, first discerning her surroundings to confirm she had not gone astray. She addressed Su Yi, remarking that at their current pace, they would likely reach the secret realm within a day. However, she expressed concern that if others had already arrived before them, their journey would be in vain. But let me tell you, what I have given you cannot be returned, Su Yi retorted with a hint of sarcasm. In response, Ling Ji merely smiled, seemingly unfazed. Chapter 14. The Cautious Nezha. On the third day, as the horizon began to blush with the first light of dawn, Su Yi and Xiao Linglong diligently prepared their belongings, embarking on their journey. The morning in the ancient desolate desert was still oppressively hot. The two traversed swiftly, leaving a trail of footprints in the yellow sands that were soon smoothed over by the wind. By midday, a rare sight of greenery caught their eyes as they arrived at a small oasis. Though modest in size, the oasis shone like a brilliant jewel amidst the vast desert, imparting a sense of vitality and hope. At that moment, Ling Ji's voice resonated clearly from Xiao Linglong's ring. We have arrived. This is the Qinglian Earth Fire secret realm. Upon hearing this, Su Yi immediately halted, his keen gaze scanning the surroundings. In the center of the oasis lay a pool of crystal-clear spring water, exuding wisps of steam. The surrounding sands were slightly darker, revealing faint red veins, as if searing flames coursed beneath the earth. Not far off, a few gnarled, withered trees stood crookedly, their bark cracked, yet emanating a peculiar resilience. After observing for a moment, Su Yi turned to the ring on Xiao Linglong's hand and inquired. I did not ask about the details of our cooperation earlier, but now that we have reached our destination, it would be prudent to discuss the conditions of this secret realm. After all, it is a secret place, and we must be wary of potential dangers. Ling Ji's voice emerged from the ring once more. This Earth Fire secret realm was left behind following an earth-shattering battle in ancient times. That conflict was cataclysmic, with tremendous forces colliding, resulting in distortions of space and spiritual veins, thus giving rise to this secret realm. She paused briefly, as if gathering her thoughts, before continuing. It was discovered by the Emperor of Flames, who sought to transcend to the realm of the great Emperor through it. Unfortunately, he failed, leaving his corporeal form here along with his extraordinary fire, the Qinglian Earth Fire. Ling Ji elaborated further. The Qinglian Earth Fire possesses unparalleled power and is renowned within the annals of extraordinary fires. Not only can it refine the physical body and enhance one's prowess, but if tamed, it grants the wielder the ability to unleash devastating powers. This is why, despite the myriad dangers, countless cultivators are drawn to this Earth Fire secret realm in search of adventure. However, although the Emperor of Flames has perished, the oppressive aura and restrictions he left behind still linger within the realm. These restrictions grow increasingly formidable as one ventures deeper, and a moment's carelessness could provoke terrifying retaliations. Ling Ji, with a grave expression, added, once, a group of formidable emperors ventured into the secret realm, seeking the blue lotus Earth Fire, yet ultimately, only one emerged severely injured. Upon hearing this, Su Yi turned and walked away. What a jest! If even emperors suffered grievous losses, what chance did he have? Although he had unlocked the complete form of the demon pearl and would undoubtedly surpass others in the future, he was far from being on par with the emperors at present. The dangers of this secret realm were too great. Su Yi had no intention of accompanying them inside. Having already escorted them, he would simply accept the loss and forego the treasures within the realm. Xiao Linglong, observing Nezha's departure, couldn't help but inquire with a hint of confusion, Nezha, where are you going? Su Yi retorted, a note of irritation in his voice. Would you willingly enter a realm where even emperors might fall? His tone dripped with disdain and caution. At that moment, Ling Ji couldn't suppress a chuckle, her voice emanating from the ring, laced with playful mockery. I thought you, Li Nezha, were fearless. However, in the next instant, Su Yi's words rendered her amusement null. With his hands on his hips, he boldly declared, I am merely 3 years old. Unlike you, an old hag who has lived long enough to value your life. His demeanor was that of a spirited and clever child, not only refuting the notion of cowardice, but also taking a jab at Ling Ji. Ling Ji was momentarily speechless, and after a brief silence, she shook her head in resignation. You little rascal are indeed clever. I suspect you will face no misfortune in the future, she remarked with a wry smile, her tone revealing both helplessness and a hint of admiration. Indeed, they say misfortune is a blessing, but I would rather forego that blessing. Su Yi replied, crossing his arms and lifting his chin with an air of self-satisfaction. Xiao Linglong couldn't help but stifle a laugh, saying, "Nezha, your temperament is truly unique." Ling Ji continued, "These accounts I have obtained from the spiritual records, detailing events from 50,000 years ago. I have even ventured into the realm myself. The restrictions are nearly non-existent, with only the remnants of the golden body stage remaining. As for the blue lotus earth fire, it lies sealed deep within the secret realm." Her expression grew complex as she recounted her tale, revealing that upon returning from the realm, she had fallen victim to the treachery of her own disciple. In this twist of fate, she had been unable to retrieve the blue lotus earth fire. Perhaps this was Xiao Linglong's destined opportunity. How do we enter the secret realm? It appears barren all around. Su Yi mused, scanning the surroundings, momentarily setting aside thoughts of departure, and instead, displaying keen interest in his surroundings. As if he were not the one who had just insisted on leaving, Ling Ji's voice emerged from the ring once more. "Proceed towards the central oasis. Where the spring's vapor is most concentrated, there lies a concealed spatial rift, which serves as the entrance to the secret realm." Upon hearing this, Su Yi raised an eyebrow, casting a curious yet cautious glance at the spring. Xiao Linglong quickly approached his side and whispered, "Nezha, let us be cautious." Su Yi nodded slightly, and the two began to make their way toward the spring. As one approaches the clear spring, the rising steam intensifies, resembling a layer of scalding gossamer that blurs one's vision. Su Yi channels his spiritual energy, and his eyes gleam with a faint crimson light, attempting to penetrate this veil of heat. In the thickest part of the steam, he keenly detects a subtle fluctuation in the space, akin to the delicate ripples on a tranquil lake's surface. This must be it, Su Yi muses as he reaches out to gently touch the source of the disturbance, feeling a soft yet peculiar force envelop his hand, as if probing and beckoning him forth. Observing this, Xiao Linglong hastily channels her own spiritual energy, closely trailing behind Su Yi. Taking a deep breath, Su Yi steps boldly into the concealed rift in space. In an instant, the world spins chaotically around him, the scenery shifting rapidly, and a searing warmth envelopes him, as if he were ensconced within a vast furnace. Xiao Linglong follows closely. Upon entry, she senses a slight disarray in her spiritual energy and quickly steadies her mind, exerting all her strength to resist the oppressive heat. The silhouettes of the two gradually fade within this oasis. Approximately a quarter of an hour later, 6 figures cloaked in black abruptly appear in this locale. The last place where they vanished is to be meticulously searched. The man at the center gazes at a copper lamp emitting an eerie green flame in his hand. Upon closer inspection, this ancient lamp is adorned with countless twisted faces in bas-relief, their features contorted in expressions of agony and malice. The lamp's body is inscribed with enigmatic runes, through which a dark crimson light flows, reminiscent of blood surging within. The wick is an ethereal green flame, flickering uncertainly, exuding a bone-chilling coldness. The 5 individuals behind him promptly nod and dissolve into shadows, dispersing in all directions. Chapter 15. The eerie mist standing at the heart of the oasis. The man in the black cloak rustles ominously, radiating a chilling aura that instills dread. The soul-eating lamp, a celestial treasure of the Yellow Spring sect, is held aloft in his grasp. The ghostly green flame dances erratically upon the wick, starkly contrasting with the surrounding searing desert environment. As he strides forward with measured steps, the golden sands beneath his feet tremble as if shaken by an invisible force. He mutters incantations, a continuous flow of spiritual energy surging from within him, imbued with a rich malevolence that seems to echo the whispers of countless vengeful spirits. The very air around him appears to be tainted by this dark energy, the temperature plummeting to a bone-chilling cold. The man, a spirit at the harmonization level, speaks in a low voice, his tone seemingly calm, yet betraying an insatiable greed. This harmonization-level spirit represents a splendid opportunity for him to transcend his cultivation, a crucial asset in his ambition to become the next sect master of the Yellow Spring sect. Otherwise, the Ancient One would never have entrusted such a celestial artifact to him. Was it not for the purpose of seeking out more spirits? 3 days prior, while traversing the great wilderness, the soul-eating lamp had reacted violently, indicating the presence of a formidable spirit nearby. He was immediately filled with excitement. Following the guidance of the dim lantern, tracing his way to this ancient desolate desert, the techniques of the Huangquan sect were exceedingly malevolent, relying on the absorption of the spiritual essence of living beings to enhance their cultivation. The higher the quality of the spiritual essence, the swifter the progress in their training. In their relentless pursuit of greater power, they resorted to any means necessary, committing heinous acts of murder and massacre. as long as they could capture and refine. Attaining the realm of divine void would be within their grasp. With this thought, a cold smile curled at the corners of the man's lips. He could almost envision the scene of commanding the elements after absorbing this Tao-level spiritual essence for the Huangquan sect. Yet, in the next moment, that chilling smile vanished, replaced by a sinister expression, his gaze brimming with murderous intent. He abruptly halted, his surroundings swirling with ghostly energy like a surging tide of blackness. Gritting his teeth, he declared that under the spiritual essence's condition, even a Tao-level essence could never traverse the vast desert to arrive here alone. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind as his expression grew increasingly grim. Someone must be guiding them, he muttered under his breath, the flames of rage igniting within him. These individuals have wasted so much of my time. With a thunderous roar, his voice echoed across the oasis, laced with boundless resentment and malice. As he spoke, the soul-devouring lantern in his hand erupted with a blinding ghostly light, emerald flames soaring high, seemingly fueling his wrath, as though eagerly anticipating the consumption of those souls. Old woman, you wouldn't dare deceive me, would you? This is certainly not the secret realm of the Flame Emperor. He furrowed his brow, displaying his impatience, while waving his arms to disperse the thick smoke that enveloped him, shouting towards Ling Ji. The ghastly place before him was shrouded in swirling smoke, as if cloaked by a heavy black curtain, with visibility alarmingly low. Around him stood a multitude of desiccated trees, their bark cracked, branches twisted, clawing towards the sky like countless desiccated arms reaching from hell. What infuriated Sui the most was that as soon as they stepped into this so-called secret realm, flocks of crows, as if summoned by some mysterious force, surged in from all directions, densely alighting upon the withered trees. These crows cawed raucously, their shrill cacophony echoing through the eerie and desolate atmosphere, causing Sui great agitation, his temples throbbing. Moreover, whether it was merely his illusion or not, the temperature around seemed to drop a few degrees alongside the crow's cries, an inexplicable chill racing up his spine, as if something terrifying within this secret realm had been awakened. Ling Ji's figure darted out from the ring in a swift motion. Her demeanor was serene as she gently waved her sleeve, causing the swirling smoke around her to dissipate slightly, as if encountering a nemesis. In truth, this is the tomb of the Flame Emperor, Ling Ji explained unhurriedly, gazing into the distance. I had previously informed you that the Flame Emperor failed to complete his final breakthrough and transformed this place into his grave. This location is still on the very edge. Before them stood a tomb gate, already ajar, facilitating their entry. However, caution was warranted. The mist possessed a malevolent quality, perhaps a remnant of the numerous emperors who had perished here. In her former state as an emperor, she had been indifferent to the mist, yet now, as a mere spirit, she found herself unable to wield many of her former powers. Even in possession of Xiao Linglong's body, she could only manifest the strength of a first-level Golden Body Realm practitioner. The diminutive specter before them was estimated to possess merely the prowess of a 6th-level Golden Body Realm. The journey itself was not perilous, but the true danger lay within this secret realm. As Sui stepped into this eerie domain, he acutely sensed the multitude of souls concealed within the mist. These phantoms flickered ominously, emanating a nauseating aura of malevolence, akin to countless wicked eyes lurking in the shadows, observing their every move. The cacophony became unbearable. Suyi's patience frayed under the relentless, shrill cawing of the crows. With a fierce shout, his voice reverberated through the sinister surroundings. He abruptly turned, his gaze fierce and unwavering, fixating on the raucous crows perched upon a gnarled tree, a glint of menace flashing in his eyes. Upon closer inspection, the crows appeared grotesque, their plumage nearly stripped away, exposing decaying flesh riddled with writhing maggots. In the dim light, they were particularly repulsive and terrifying. A wave of intense discomfort surged within Sui, reinforcing his conviction that these were no ordinary crows. "Begone," he commanded, raising his hand, whereupon a conflagration of blazing Samadhi True Fire coalesced in his palm. This ethereal blue flame shimmered with hints of golden light, its temperature extraordinarily high, warping the air around it as it manifested. With a flick of his wrist, the Samadhi True Fire shot forth like a resplendent meteor, aimed directly at the most repulsive of the rotting crows. Boom! The fire struck true, enveloping the decayed crow in an instant. The creature let out a piercing scream, only to be reduced to ash in a heartbeat, dissipating into the eerie mist. Moreover, the ferocity of the Samadhi True Fire continued to spread, igniting the surrounding withered trees that were already prone to combustion. The flames rapidly consumed them, producing a crackling sound, and within moments, they too were reduced to mere ashes. leaving behind the acrid scent of charred wood wafting through the air. Perhaps as a consequence, the mist that had encircled them gradually began to dissipate. Such ghostly theatrics. Sui scoffed. Chapter 16. Shall we light a lamp to assess the damage? Sui's countenance was stern, his aura calm and unwavering, entirely dismissive of the flickering souls hidden within the fog. To him, they were merely blustering minions too cowardly to reveal their faces. A hint of disdain curled at the corner of his mouth as he uttered a low command, igniting the blazing Samadhi True Fire in his palm once more. The flames emanated a pale blue hue, subtly shimmering with a golden glow within, exuding a temperature that was alarmingly high. As soon as they manifested, the surrounding air was scorched and distorted. With a swift flick of his wrist, Sui unleashed the true fire of Samadhi, akin to a serpent of flames, darting towards the group of specters shrouded in mist. In an instant, a chilling wail echoed through the darkness, a sound both sharp and haunting. However, under the formidable might of the Samadhi True Fire, these phantoms were utterly powerless to retaliate. Within moments, they were consumed by the flames, dissipating into wisps of azure smoke, vanishing without a trace. Beside him, Ling Ji, initially furrowing her brow, found the previous situation quite challenging to manage. She had expected to navigate through it with considerable effort, yet she was taken aback by how effortlessly Sui resolved the predicament. These half-dead crows are likely connected to the specters, Sui remarked. Observing the scene, Ling Ji's furrowed brow gradually relaxed, a flicker of surprise and admiration glinting in her eyes. She scrutinized Sui, internally marveling at the child who, despite exuding an aura of dark energy and an unsettling charm, wielded such formidable Samadhi True Fire against malevolent spirits, rendering him an enigma. Noticing Ling Ji's unwavering gaze upon him, Sui felt a twinge of irritation and retorted, "What are you staring at, old woman?" Ling Ji's face instantaneously reflected displeasure, countering, "You, young lad, are rather impolite. I may be older, but I am not yet to the extent of being called an old woman." A slight smirk graced Sui's lips as he replied, "You're thousands of years my senior. Surely, I cannot refer to you as sister? Would you have the audacity to respond to that?" "Old woman." Ling Ji, exasperated, decided to ignore him, huffing softly as she transformed into a wisp of azure smoke, gracefully gliding forward. Her figure was light, her garments billowing, clearly leading the way to the main tomb of the Flame Emperor. Having visited once before, she was well acquainted with the path, her steps brisk and assured as she navigated through the eerie and uncanny surroundings with ease. Sui trailed behind Ling Ji, his eyes darting around, keenly observing the environment. He intermittently gazed up at the contorted branches of the desolate trees and then down at the parched earth beneath his feet, meticulously scrutinizing every detail as if searching for something in this seemingly lifeless realm. As they walked, Sui called out to Ling Ji, "Old woman, do you sense that?" Ling Ji, upon hearing his words, allowed a subtle smile to grace her lips, revealing a hint of mystery, yet she did not respond directly, merely stating, "The path we tread speaks volumes." Initially taken aback by her response, Sui soon appeared enlightened, a smile spreading across his face, a glimmer of cunning sparkling in his eyes. Meanwhile, Xiao Linglong observed the interplay between the two with a look of perplexity. Her brows furrowed slightly, and her eyes brimmed with confusion as she struggled to comprehend the exchange between her teacher Ling Ji and Sui, trailing behind them with a heart full of uncertainty. After a brief interval, Xiao Linglong focused intently on the interaction unfolding before her, observing every gesture and movement of the two. The more she watched, the more she sensed something amiss, ultimately realizing they had been going in circles. A wave of unease surged within her, and just as she was about to voice her concerns, a sudden turn of events transpired. At that very moment, a figure emerged unexpectedly, radiating an overwhelming aura that bore down like a colossal mountain. Under such immense pressure, Xiao Linglong's expression froze, her eyes widening in horror as this force bore down directly upon her, intent on delivering a decisive strike. Though she reacted swiftly, instinctively channeling her spiritual energy in a desperate attempt to resist, her efforts proved futile against an opponent of such superior caliber. Her legs trembled slightly, and beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. "Ah, have you finally lost your patience after trailing us for so long?" Sui remarked with a subtle smile as he sensed the commotion. In an instant, he appeared before Xiao Linglong with a mere flicker of movement. He did not resort to any flamboyant maneuvers. His demeanor remained serious as he delivered a powerful kick. The ghost general, wearing a cruel smile, targeted Xiao Linglong simply because she was the nearest victim. In truth, his desire was to rend apart the young Sui. In the ghost general's imagination, The sensation of tearing apart a child like Su Yi would be exquisitely delightful. Observing the legs of Xiao Linglong, which were akin to the thickness of bamboo, the ghost general felt a surge of disdain. As a protector of the Yellow Springs sect, despite his third-tier golden body realm being somewhat unremarkable among many strong practitioners, he deemed these two spiritual beings utterly insignificant, confident that subduing them would be a trivial matter. Humph, prepare to meet your end. The black, ghostly energy coalesced in his palm, forming two enormous ghostly claws that shimmered with a chilling glow as they lunged violently towards Su Yi, the air crackling with the sound of tearing. In an instant, their fists and feet collided with a deafening roar, the force of the impact radiating outward like a tempest, distorting the surrounding air into swirling vortices. The next moment, the ghost general was sent hurtling backward at a speed surpassing that with which he had approached, streaking through the air like a shooting star. With a thunderous crash, he collided forcefully with the ground, sending a cloud of debris and dust into the air, creating a massive crater in the earth. As the ghost general was propelled away by Su Yi's kick, the air around them stirred as if influenced by an unseen force, rippling in waves. Subsequently, 5 shadowy figures appeared before Su Yi without any forewarning. Cloaked in an air of concealed energy, they emanated a chilling aura of oppression. At the forefront stood a young man draped in an opulent black robe, his countenance stern, and his gaze imbued with an innate arrogance. In that moment, the ghostly general, lying in a deep pit, hastily scrambled to his feet, his body covered in dust, his garments torn and ragged, presenting a most disheveled appearance. Yet, he paid no heed to his disarray. Upon seeing the young man in black, his face paled instantly, his legs weakened, and he fell to his knees with a resounding thud, his voice quivering with trepidation. "Young master, I am incompetent. Please punish me." The young man appeared oblivious to the ghostly general's pleas for mercy, not even raising his eyelids, entirely indifferent to the man's predicament. He slowly lifted his head, his gaze piercing straight past Su Yi, fixating intently on Ling Ji, his eyes seemingly harboring 2 flickering depths of ghostly flames. A greedy smile crept upon his lips, unmasked desire evident in his expression. "I found you," the young man proclaimed, his voice low yet brimming with uncontainable excitement, surprised by this unexpected gain, the soul-devouring ghost lantern. Ling Ji's pupils contracted sharply, a flash of alarm crossing her features. "What a dreadful lamp. It's so unattractive that one might think he is assessing it for damages." "You'll have the chance to see the Bao Yin lantern," Su Yi remarked dismissively. Chapter 17. Because I am too young. I know not the heights of heaven nor the depths of the earth. Ling Ji's expression shifted to one of utmost seriousness, her gaze fixed intently on the soul-devouring ghost lantern, vigilance saturating her eyes as she urgently called out to Su Yi, "Nezha, be cautious." The soul-devouring ghost lantern is a celestial treasure of the Yellow Springs sect, possessing formidable restraint over soul entities and the capacity to seize one's spirit. Upon hearing Ling Ji's words, the young man's expression grew increasingly deranged, his facial muscles contorting with excitement as he erupted into raucous laughter. "Truly, as expected of a spirit of the harmonized path, such breadth of knowledge. If you cooperate and guide me through this secret realm, I might grant you a more comfortable demise." A mocking smile curled at the corners of Su Yi's lips, his gaze filled with derision. Although he spoke to Ling Ji, his eyes remained fixed on the man, as if observing a complete fool. "Old hag, you have long forgotten how many years have passed. This man seeks to make you die once more. How foolish can one be? Do you not realize that the dead cannot die again?" Du Jiuyu's smile froze instantly, vanishing without a trace. As the young master of the Yellow Springs sect, backed by the second-ranking demonic faction of the Zhou Kingdom, second only to the Heavenly Demon Cult, he was accustomed to being treated with respect, even by the young master of the Heavenly Demon Cult. Yet this little brat dared to mock him in such a manner? His countenance darkened, resembling a sky laden with storms, so ominous it seemed to drip with malice. What audacious child dares to provoke a formidable foe without cause? Do you not understand that this is a secret realm? I must concede, your talent is indeed remarkable, but you are merely an unripe genius. Du Jiuyu's lips curled into a faint, enigmatic smile, a semblance of amusement laced with chilling disdain. His gaze, cast sideways, fell upon the ghost general sent flying by Su Yi's kick, his heart brimming with contempt. Although this ghost general was the most inept of his subordinates, merely a death warrior cultivated through depleted potential, he nonetheless held the stature of a third-tier golden body cultivator, a formidable figure in the outer realms. The fact that he was so effortlessly dispatched by this young boy was beyond his expectations. Du Juyo had initially considered that it would be prudent to avoid unnecessary conflict. If the boy had shown some sense, he might have spared him, for the world of cultivation values interpersonal relations. What if there were restraints upon him? Should he be killed, his elders would undoubtedly mark him as a target. Yet now, this audacious brat had dared to mock him openly, crossing a line that ignited a torrent of murderous intent within Du Juyo. Ultimately, he resolved to let his subordinates handle the matter, if they were indeed present. The worst outcome would merely be the loss of a few minions. Ling Ji's expression was fraught with urgency as she swiftly approached Xiao Linglong. Her gaze fixated on Sui. Nezha, the situation is dire. Summon your protector at once, she urged, her voice tinged with desperation. However, Sui merely shook his head gently, offering no words in response. A sudden twist of fate transpired. Without warning, the ground beneath Sui shattered, and a shadow, like a specter, surged forth from the debris. This figure's hands spun like high-speed drills, infused with a lethal intent, and it lunged mercilessly towards Su Yi's lower body, moving with such swiftness that there was little time for reaction. Yet Su Yi's response was nothing short of remarkable, almost simultaneously with the shadow's emergence. He deftly evaded the attack with a nimble leap, effortlessly escaping the onslaught. At that moment, the ghostly Rakshasa, emerging from the earth, revealed a sinister grin. The earlier ferocious strike was merely a precursor. The true fatal blow was yet to come. Utilizing her evasion skills, she had summoned the ghostly crone, now poised to unleash her assassination technique. Is that all you've got? Sui taunted midair, his figure twisting gracefully, his garments fluttering as he wore a nonchalant smirk. His voice rang clear, laced with mockery as it drifted toward the ghostly Rakshasa. Enraged by his words, the Rakshasa erupted in fury. Her twisted visage flushed with anger as she bellowed, "You insolent brat! Worry about yourself." At that critical juncture, a dark figure shot forth like lightning, appearing behind Sui. The speed of this entity was astonishing, positioning itself with unwavering steadiness just as Sui was about to land. Upon closer inspection, the figure revealed itself as a terrifying being towering over 2 meters, exuding a potent stench of decay. Its skin bore an eerie bluish-black hue, muscles bulging as if on the verge of bursting, and elongated fangs protruded menacingly from its mouth, glinting coldly in the dim light. Nezha. Upon witnessing this scene, Xiao Linglong's face drained of color, her eyes wide with terror as she involuntarily cried out, her voice laden with dread and concern. In this moment of peril, Ling Ji also sprang into action. Her silhouette vanished like a wisp of blue smoke, only to reappear instantaneously, merging with the body of Xiao Linglong. In her ethereal form, her powers were severely constrained, rendering her unable to unleash her full potential. In desperation, she seized control of Xiao Linglong's body. Nonetheless, even under these circumstances, she could only muster the strength equivalent to the first level of the golden body realm, and prolonged combat was out of the question. A moment's carelessness could lead to the disintegration of her spirit form. The ghostly bone matron, her feet firmly planted, leaned forward. Her emaciated arms, imbued with terrifying strength, hoisted a pair of colossal hammers, whistling through the air with an unstoppable momentum, and viciously swung them towards Su Yi's position. Yet, in this critical moment, Sui exhibited no trace of the anticipated panic. A faint smile curled at the corners of his lips, revealing a mouth full of sharp teeth, as a deep, rich demonic aura emanated from him, seemingly more ghastly than the specters of the Huangquan sect before him. "Foolish giant, did you truly believe I was oblivious to your presence?" Sui's voice rang clear, laced with an undertone of endless mockery. Fire spike spear. In an instant, the air trembled as a blinding burst of fire erupted from his palm, swiftly coalescing into a long spear engulfed in fierce flames. The shaft shimmered with runes. The flames danced, each flicker accompanied by a slight distortion of space, exuding a terrifying heat. Imperial weapon. Xiao Linglong, spirit princess, could not suppress her exclamation, her eyes wide with astonishment and disbelief. Sui's long fingers gripped the fire spike spear with unwavering steadiness, without even glancing back. He pivoted abruptly and thrust with the force of thunder. The sound of the spear's ignition erupted like a divine thunderclap, reverberating through the air, causing a painful ringing in the ears as the shockwave emanated from Sui, expanding violently in all directions, shaking the entire secret realm to its core. As if it were on the verge of collapse, the ghostly bone matron had believed that with her dual hammers and swift attack speed, she could assuredly vanquish Sui in one blow. However, reality delivered a crushing blow. At the moment her hammers struck the fire spike spear, a series of sharp cracks resounded, and those hammers she had cherished, deemed indestructible, shattered into countless fragments that scattered in all directions. Yet the fire spike spear surged forward unimpeded, enveloped in roaring flames, advancing with relentless force straight towards the ghostly bone matron. Upon witnessing this, the ghostly bone matron felt a surge of unprecedented terror. There was no time for contemplation. With a furious roar, she swiftly intertwined her hands and chanted incantations, invoking life-preserving secret techniques. In the blink of an eye, her entire body was enveloped in a dense layer of bone, which exhibited an eerie black hue, shimmering with a cold luster, appearing utterly indomitable. However, before the fire spike spear, all her defenses seemed alarmingly fragile. As the spear made contact with the seemingly impervious layer of bone, it pierced through effortlessly, as if it were mere parchment. The fire spear, imbued with a terrifying force, pierced directly through the body of the bone old witch, blood gushing from her wounds, tracing glaring lines in the air. Su Yi's expression remained impassive, his gaze as cold as an abyss in a frigid night. With a subtle twist of his wrist, he rotated the spear within her body, then forcefully hurled her towards Du Jiuyu's position. The bone old witch's form crashed to the ground like a cannonball, kicking up a cloud of dust, obscuring the scene amidst flying sand and stones. Su Yi leisurely rested the fire spear on his shoulder, his hands casually draped over its shaft, a faint, elusive smile playing on his lips as he gazed at Du Jiuyu, leisurely remarking, "It is merely my youth that renders me unaware of the vastness of the heavens and the earth." Chapter 18. The Five Guardians, enduring relentless beatings. The bone old witch lay stark on the ground, her breath faint and labored. A gaping, horrifying wound had appeared in her chest, her garments soaked with blood, rendering their original color unrecognizable. Upon closer inspection, one could glimpse her mangled insides, a disarray of organs suspended within her chest cavity. Her breathing was weak and rapid, each inhalation accompanied by violent rises and falls of her chest, while exhalations were sporadic like delicate threads. The ghost Rakshasa stood frozen in place, his eyes wide with disbelief, fixated on the scene before him, lips parted yet unable to utter a single word. The bone old witch, with her enigmatic and formidable bones, had once commanded awe within the realm of the sixth layer of the golden body, having slain numerous renowned prodigies. Those prodigies, each gifted with remarkable talents and astonishing abilities, had also come before her. Yet today, this terror-inducing bone old, which had seemingly struck a hard iron plate, vanquished by a single blow from her opponent. The ghost Rakshasa's mind replayed the recent events, Su Yi's lightning-fast strike, and the spear's horrifying power instilling profound dread within him. He understood all too well that had the spear penetrated his own body, his fate would be no better than that of the bone old witch. Du Jiuyu, witnessing this scene, felt his pupils constrict sharply, a flicker of undeniable astonishment crossing his face. His five guardians had already witnessed the ghost general being utterly defeated by this seemingly youthful boy, and now the bone old, which lay grievously injured, pierced through by a single thrust, sprawled on the ground in a state of oblivion. This was an achievement beyond what one might expect from a mere child. Su Yi's strength clearly surpassed his estimations. However, as the young master of the Huangquan sect, Du Jiuyu had weathered numerous storms and, after a brief moment of astonishment, quickly regained his composure, revealing no signs of panic. He narrowed his eyes slightly, his gaze sharp as an eagle's, locking intently onto the fire spear resting upon Su Yi's shoulder. The spear, engulfed in fierce flames and adorned with shimmering runes, emanated terrifying power that Du Jiuyu could sense even from a considerable distance. His lips curled into a slow smile as he murmured softly, "Good treasure." The tone was laden with greed and covetousness, clearly regarding the fire spear as already within his grasp. Despite being a sneak attack from a 6th-level gold body realm, Nezha astonishingly dispatched his opponent in a single move. Ling Ji felt a tempest of emotions surging within her, her eyes brimming with awe at Su Yi's prowess. Prior to this, based on various indications, she had estimated Su Yi's strength to be approximately at the 4th level of the gold body realm. However, the scene before her utterly shattered her preconceived notions. The combat power displayed by Su Yi was simply unparalleled. Gui Gupa, a formidable figure at the 6th level of the gold body realm, had launched a full-force sneak attack, which she believed would pose significant trouble for Su Yi, potentially even inflicting severe damage. Yet, Su Yi effortlessly vanquished him, revealing a disparity in strength that was truly unfathomable. Ling Ji couldn't help but ponder. The previous encounter with the Xian Huatian Shi, although a beast, had at most the combat power of the 1st level of the gold body realm. How could she have been so confidently presumptuous in her early judgment of Su Yi's strength? Clearly, Su Yi's hidden capabilities far surpassed her imagination. Yet, there was a glimmer of relief. Had it not been for Nezha's words, she and Xiao Linglong would have stood no chance against the forces present in the underworld. Gui Luosha trembled, gazing at the imposing aura radiating from Su Yi, filled with trepidation, fully aware of the insurmountable gap in strength. At that moment, he dared not delay any further. His spiritual energy surged, and in an instant, he vanished like a specter, reappearing behind Du Jiuyo with a speed that left a trail of afterimages. Du Jiuyo's expression was as dark as thunderclouds, his gaze sweeping over the motionless Gui Gu Po on the ground before landing on the composed Su Yi, his inner fury ablaze. He abruptly waved his hand and bellowed viciously, "Two useless fools, subdue that woman." The ghost general and Gui Luosha shuddered, not daring to raise their heads or utter a word. As if driven by an invisible force, they hurriedly advanced towards Xiao Linglong. Their figures streaked through the air like swift shadows. Standing resolute behind Du Jiuyo were his trusted aides, the Ghost Kill and Ghost Shadow. Both were formidable figures at the 8th level of the Gold Body realm, exuding a chilling and powerful aura, their eyes glinting with ferocity and cruelty. Furthermore, with Du Jiuyo himself being at the 9th level of the Gold Body realm, despite Su Yi's astonishing display of strength, there remained a flicker of arrogance within Du Jiuyo. After a brief moment of shock, he did not truly regard the seemingly youthful Su Yi with any seriousness. Exchanging glances, the Ghost Kill and Ghost Shadow surged forward, their spiritual energy swirling around them as they charged at Su Yi at an incredible speed, creating a rushing wind that enveloped the air. Their swift coordination was primarily due to the Ghost General and Gui Luosha, who had already charged towards Xiao Linglong. Observing this, Su Yi remained unruffled, a cold smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He horizontally wielded the flame spear, causing the flames along its shaft to surge dramatically, distorting the surrounding air with its intense heat. Faced with the long halberd of the Ghost Slayer, he flicked his wrist, and the flame spear coiled around the blade like a nimble fire dragon. With a powerful twist, he effortlessly neutralized the Ghost Slayer's offensive. Simultaneously, he lightly tapped the ground with his toes, propelling his body like a streak of golden lightning, deftly evading the soft whip of the Ghost Shadow Lord. In a swift motion, he thrust the spear towards the Ghost Shadow Lord, whose expression shifted in alarm as he hurriedly swung his whip to defend. The whip twirled rapidly in his grasp, forming a defensive barrier in an attempt to block Su Yi's fierce thrust. Yet, it was still repelled by Su Yi's strike. Meanwhile, the Ghost General and Ghost Rakshasa had already rushed before Xiao Linglong. The Ghost General extended his clawed hands, the sound of rushing wind accompanying his attack toward Xiao Linglong, while the Ghost Rakshasa employed an eerie agility, flitting alongside her, searching for an opening to strike. After a few exchanges, Ling Ji had already discerned that Xiao Linglong's arm had been severed. Despite her forcibly enhancing her golden body realm, her overall physique was insufficient. Confronted by adversaries several realms above her, her former status as an emperor could no longer sustain her. It was indeed a case of a tiger fallen to the plains, bullied by dogs. Ling Ji's beautiful eyes remained fixed on the battlefield, pondering that if this continued, the situation would only worsen. At that moment, the Ghost Rakshasa swung her blade horizontally, the fierce wind slicing through the air. Gritting her silver teeth, Ling Ji's delicate form turned with the grace of willow fluff, narrowly avoiding the deadly strike. However, before she could regain her composure, the Ghost General's fist, enveloped in the sound of rushing wind and exuding an unstoppable momentum, descended upon her. Ling Ji understood that evasion was futile against this blow. Among these foes, the Ghost General possessed the weakest strength, and enduring this punch would result in the least injury. Therefore, gritting her teeth, Ling Ji summoned her spiritual energy, forming a pale blue shield before her, preparing to withstand the impact and create distance. Her current intention was to venture into the tomb. The restrictions of the secret realm might still offer a glimmer of hope. At an unknown moment, the ethereal, mysterious sky ribbon appeared beside her, weaving through the air like a nimble spirit serpent, leaving dazzling trails of light. With a gentle swirl, the mysterious sky ribbon enveloped Ling Ji entirely, and, like a gale, swiftly transported her to Su Yi's side. Du Jiuyu's pupils constricted. A celestial tear artifact. Old woman, you seem to be in quite a predicament. Saying this, he swept his spear to repel the Ghost Slayer once more, then turned to Du Jiuyu. Oh dear. Your 5 great Vajras are taking turns to be beaten. Chapter 19. The sun and moon coexist. 1,000 spirits reunite. Upon hearing Su Yi's words, Ling Ji's brows instantly arched, ready to retort sharply. But just then, a surge of blood surged to her throat, and she felt a sweetness that threatened to burst forth from her throat. However, as the proud descendant of a once great emperor, a fierce tenacity coursed through her veins, compelling her to refuse the notion of disgracefully expelling the stagnant blood within her. She clenched her pearly teeth, the silver of her incisors gleaming with a stark intensity, resolutely swallowing back the bitter tide of blood. Although she feigned composure, the slight tremor of her shoulders betrayed her discomfort. Su-yi observed this scene with keen interest, a flicker of mischief glinting in his onyx eyes. Watching Ling Ji struggle to maintain her facade, he could not suppress the upward curve of his lips, which formed a barely perceptible smile, yet he refrained from further mockery. Instead, he turned his attention to Du Jiuyu, his expression stern, exuding an aura as formidable as mountains and deep as abysses. With a sudden, forceful motion, he raised one hand, causing the mystical silken ribbon to coil around him like a living entity. In an instant, the vibrant crimson of the ribbon harmonized with the golden spiritual energy radiating from his being, erupting into a dazzling brilliance. Subsequently, he firmly grasped the fire-tipped spear in his left hand, directing its fiery tip forward with a fierce thrust. The flames blazed along the length of the spear, warping the very air around them with their searing heat. "Come and fight," Su-yi bellowed, his voice resonating like a thunderclap, sending ripples through the air that seemed poised to rend the heavens asunder. In that moment, he felt a surge of fervor akin to a tumultuous tide, his battle spirit soaring to unprecedented heights. After all, a demon core is inherently combative. Since its inception, it has thrived on conflict. Reflecting on his previous encounter with the Xianhua heavenly serpent, he found that battle too effortless, scarcely challenging enough to satiate his thirst for combat. Yet today was different. The foes before him were formidable, and the assembly of the Huang Quan sect ignited a spark of excitement within him, fanning the flames of his longing for battle. At this moment, every cell in his body clamored for an exhilarating clash, yearning to unleash his full might without reservation. Ling Ji, ever perceptive, noted Su-yi's surging battle intent and the fierce aura enveloping him, ready to engage the members of the Huang Quan sect in a fierce confrontation. Aware of her own grave injuries, she understood that remaining in place would not only render her ineffective, but could also become a burden to Su-yi. Thus, she discreetly retreated a step, swiftly distancing herself from the battlefield and finding a relatively secure position. Once settled, she fixed her gaze upon Su-yi, a flicker of concern crossing her features, before raising her voice with gravity to caution him. "Be careful, Nezha. The soul-eating lantern of the Huang Quan sect is exceedingly sinister. This lantern has been passed down for countless years, having absorbed innumerable souls. For this reason, it is revered as a celestial treasure, its power even surpassing that of imperial weapons." Upon hearing this, Su-yi felt no trace of fear. Instead, an exaggerated grin spread across his face, infused with a hint of defiance. "Indeed, that is quite a remarkable treasure," he murmured to himself, his mind racing with calculations. If he were to offer the soul-eating lantern as a sacrifice, how much fortune might he gain? His current fate value has approached 60,000. If he could participate in a draw for 100,000 fate value, it would truly propel him to new heights. However, Su-yi is by no means a careless individual. After his encounters with Gue Yujun and Gue Shushi, he has roughly ascertained his present level of strength. Although his realm is still at the 9th level of the Golden Body, yet to break through to the Divine Void realm, this does not signify his actual combat prowess. After all, he wields the fire spear and possesses the extraordinary Huitianling. Should he also remove the Qiankuan circle and transform himself into the complete form of the demon pill, his strength could potentially soar to the 2nd or 3rd level of the Divine Void realm. As long as he remains cautious, victory should be assured. Nevertheless, the brief exchange between Su-yi and Ling Ji seemed to scratch at the already perturbed heart of Du Jiuyu, making him increasingly irritable. A group of useless fools. Du Jiuyu seethed internally, no longer able to restrain himself, and resolved to take matters into his own hands. In an instant, his aura surged wildly, akin to a tumultuous tide of blackness, radiating outward from his being. In his grasp, the soul-devouring lamp flickered with an eerie glow, seemingly resonating with his aura. The temperature in the vicinity plummeted sharply with Du Jiuyu's actions, and the air, once distorted by the heat emanating from Su-yi's fire spear, was now covered by a thin layer of frost. The eerie light of the underworld flickered, and soul shadows quivered. A thick wave of ghostly energy surged forth from the soul-devouring lamp like a torrent of black water, as if it possessed a life of its own. rushing towards Du Jiuyu's 5 guardians with a piercing howl. The ghost bone granny, who had been lying on the ground, barely clinging to life, her insides ravaged by Su Yi, began to recover in an exceedingly strange manner under the shroud of this ghostly energy. Her fractured bones reassembled, her shattered insides gradually healed, and her aura skyrocketed like a rocket. She broke through from the 6th level of the golden body to the 7th, then to the 8th, and finally halted at the 9th level of the golden body. Not only the ghost bone granny, but also the ghost general, ghost Rakshasa, ghost Shushi, and Gue Yujun were enveloped by this ghostly energy. Their bodies began to tremble slightly, their faces displaying a mixture of pain and exhilaration. Their original strength, bolstered by this mysterious force, rapidly ascended to the 9th level of the golden body. In an instant, the 5 guardians radiated a powerful and malevolent aura, their eyes filled with madness and brutality, as if manipulated by some evil will emanating from the soul-devouring lamp. Su Yi furrowed his brows tightly, filled with shock and vigilance. This is truly bizarre. What sort of malevolent treasure is this? Du Jiuyu displayed a sickly expression. You shall witness the might of the Huangquan soul-drawing formation. Do not worry. Soon you will also become one of them to slay this child. Bring that woman here. The 5 guardians, now turned into puppets, immediately sprang into action. The ghost general charged forth like a frenzied beast, bloodshot eyes fixed on the location of Xiao Linglong. His speed was astonishing, stirring up a gust of wind, as the sand and stones on the ground were sent flying by his footsteps. Just as he was about to approach Xiao Linglong, a dazzling red light suddenly erupted from behind. It was the Hunyuan silk, shooting forth like a streak of red lightning, instantly positioning itself before him. The ghost general, witnessing this, was consumed by rage, letting out a deafening roar. His sharp claws glinted ominously, and without hesitation, he lunged at the Hunyuan silk. With hands like hooks, he tore violently, and with a ripping sound, the silk was brutally shredded into pieces. Strangely, these fragments did not plummet to the ground as one might expect. Instead, they seemed to possess a life of their own, pausing momentarily in the air before launching a counterattack against the ghost general. The shards of Hunyuan silk sliced through the air like sharp blades, tracing crimson arcs with a fierce momentum, aimed at the ghost general's entire being. The ghost general was taken aback, utterly unprepared for such a transformation of the Hunyuan silk. He hastily swung his arms in an attempt to fend off the onslaught of fragments. The sound of clashing echoed as the shards struck his arms, producing a series of crisp noises and igniting sparks. Despite his tough exterior, the relentless barrage began to overwhelm him, leaving numerous small wounds on his arms from which blood slowly seeped. His steps became increasingly erratic, forced to retreat under the assault of these fragments, unable to inch closer to Xiao Linglong. Meanwhile, Su Yi was embroiled in a fierce struggle, gripping the fire spear tightly, which blazed with ferocious flames that seemed to embody his indomitable fighting spirit. He faced an onslaught from the ghost bone matron, ghost Rakshasa, ghost shaman, and ghost Yujun without a hint of fear. His form was agile, akin to a golden phantom, weaving through the encirclement of his 4 adversaries. With a sudden thrust, Su Yi drove the fire spear backward, its tip imbued with tremendous force, aimed directly at ghost Yujun. The latter's expression changed dramatically as he swiftly wielded his soft whip, attempting to parry this fierce strike. With a clang, the fire spear collided with the whip, sending shockwaves that left ghost Yujun's arm numb, forcing him to stagger backward. Seizing this opportunity, Su Yi pivoted, sweeping the fire spear like a fiery dragon toward the ghost bone matron. Chanting incantations, the ghost bone matron's bones detached from her body, hurtling toward the fire spear in an effort to block the attack. A series of dull thuds resonated as the bones struck the spear, sending sparks flying. Although the ghost bone matron temporarily thwarted Su Yi's assault, she was nonetheless shaken by the sheer force. At that moment, Ghost Rakshasa and Ghost Shaman launched their attacks from either side. Ghost Rakshasa brandished a long knife shimmering with ghostly light, aiming for Su Yi's neck, while Ghost Shaman swung a halberd towards Su Yi's chest. Su Yi's gaze sharpened as he leveled the fire spear, causing the flames along its shaft to surge dramatically, forming a wall of fire that thwarted the onslaught of the Ghost Rakshasa and the Ghost Executioner. Upon witnessing the unfolding chaos, Ling Ji recognized that her involvement would be futile. She promptly turned and fled towards the main tomb. She understood all too well that remaining in the fray would only serve to hinder the situation. It would be wiser to enter the tomb directly, for acquiring the Azure Lotus Earth Fire would facilitate her escape. Meanwhile, Du Jiuyu soared into the air, fixated on Nezha, who was single-handedly contending with 4 adversaries. He paid no heed to the fleeing Xiao Linglong, Capturing this young child would render the little mouse utterly trapped. Even if she possessed a combined Tao spirit, what good would it do? Ultimately, she would still become his nourishment. A glint of madness flickered in the bloodshot eyes of the ghost general, who unhesitatingly abandoned Xiaoling Long and charged towards the battlefield where Su Yi engaged in fierce combat. At that moment, Su Yi was valiantly battling four opponents. His fire spear dancing through the air, flames roaring wherever its tip touched, repeatedly repelling their assaults. The ghost general's arrival instantaneously altered the dynamics of the battlefield. He leaped with ferocity, akin to a small mountain, launching himself at Su Yi, his robust arms raised high, accompanied by a howling wind, as he brought down a devastating strike. Feeling the immense pressure descending upon him, Su Yi's eyes narrowed. He swiftly positioned the fire spear to intercept the ghost general's colossal blow. With a thunderous clang, sparks erupted, and the tremendous impact forced Su Yi's feet several inches into the ground. However, he remained composed, seizing the opportunity amidst the ghost general's attack to thrust forward, causing the flames on the fire spear to surge, pushing the ghost general back several steps. Simultaneously, the ghost bone granny, ghost rakshasa, ghost executioner, and ghost Yuyun seized the moment to advance. Confronted by this quintet, Su Yi moved like lightning, darting swiftly within the encirclement. The fire spear in his grasp whirled with impenetrable precision, each strike infused with formidable strength, targeting the enemy's vital points. Yet, the five puppets at the 9th level of the golden body realm appeared impervious to pain, relentlessly pressing their assault. More troublesome was the ghostly energy emanating from the soul-devouring lantern, which surged like a tide, enveloping the injured puppets. Under the influence of this eerie aura, their wounds healed at a visibly rapid pace. At this moment, Su Yi felt an overwhelming pressure crash down upon him. The five puppets, manipulated by the soul-devouring lantern, had lost all sensation of pain, driven solely by their instinct to kill. They coordinated their attacks with seamless unity, their offensive strategy impeccably synchronized, making it exceedingly difficult for Su Yi to find an opening for counterattack. It was no wonder that the soul-devouring lantern was revered as a heavenly treasure. Su Yi marveled inwardly. This artifact not only bestowed formidable regenerative abilities upon the puppets, but also enabled their combat coordination to reach such a terrifying level. Truly an extraordinary phenomenon. Moreover, in the periphery of his vision, Su Yi caught sight of Du Jiuyo, a formidable being at the pinnacle of the 9th realm, currently suspended in midair, gathering power. Yet, far from feeling any trepidation, Su Yi felt an exhilarating thrill coursing through him as he wielded the fire spike spear with increasing fervor. Seizing the opportune moment, he let out a thunderous roar, and the spear, enveloped in blazing flames, surged forth like a golden dragon of wrath, piercing with great force through the gap between the ghostly bone matriarch and the ghostly rakshasa. This strike was imbued with tremendous power, carrying an unstoppable momentum that instantly sent both adversaries hurtling away. The ghostly bone matriarch flailed in the air like a kite severed from its string, her bones creaking ominously as if on the verge of disintegration. The ghostly rakshasa, scorched by the flames, emitted a series of anguished cries. In this fleeting moment of respite, Su Yi was poised to pursue his advantage and amplify his triumph. He could hardly believe that the ghostly essence of these fiends was inexhaustible. However, at that instant, Du Jiuyo, who had been lurking above, made his move. With the swiftness of lightning, he closed in on Su Yi, his right fist raised high, pulsating with a dense, black spiritual energy, resembling a black hole on the brink of eruption. "Little brat, meet your end," Du Jiuyo roared, his voice echoing with a cataclysmic force as he struck down upon Su Yi. The mixed sky silk unfurled before him like a crimson veil, striving to absorb this lethal blow. A thunderous boom erupted, reminiscent of the heavens collapsing and the earth shattering. Du Jiuyo's fist collided with the mixed sky silk, unleashing a powerful shockwave that spiraled into a tempest of spiritual energy. The ground trembled violently under the force, shattering into fragments, while dust swirled chaotically. Su Yi felt an overwhelming power surge toward him, and despite the cushioning effect of the mixed sky silk, he was still forced to stagger back 5 steps. This was the first time he had suffered a setback directly, and Su Yi was taken aback. Du Jiuyo indeed possessed considerable strength. Yet Du Jiuyo was equally astonished. Despite employing the Yellow Spring's soul-summoning array to summon ghostly minions and unleashing his full strength, he was unable to subdue this young man. However, this strike had granted an opportunity to the 5 puppets. The ghostly Rakshasa, wielding 2 hooked blades, charged straight at Su Yi. A successful strike would toll the death knell for this boy. At that moment, Su Yi revealed a grin, teeth glistening menacingly. The sun and moon coexist. The myriad spirits converge, the boundless cosmos encircles, swift as the law commands. Du Jiuyo's expression, once marked by mockery and confidence, was abruptly replaced by shock. His eyes widened in disbelief, fixating on the golden collar adorning Su Yi's neck. The collar first blazed with radiant light, then began to expand rapidly, and eventually, it slowly detached itself from Su Yi's neck. In that instant, the entire space seemed to be pressed by an invisible hand, as if time itself had been momentarily suspended, rendering everything in a state of stillness. The once howling, biting cold wind abruptly ceased, the atmosphere halting its flow, even the dust suspended in the air froze in place. The ferocious attack of the ghostly Rakshasa, aimed at Su Yi, was suddenly suspended mid-air, maintaining its menacing posture, yet unable to advance an inch. An overwhelming sense of trepidation surged through the hearts of all present, akin to a tumultuous tide. It was a fear that emanated from the very depths of the soul, as if a terrifying force capable of upending the heavens and the earth was slowly awakening from Su Yi. Ling Ji, from a distance, widened her eyes in astonishment, instinctively covering her mouth, silently marveling. Is this truly the power of Nezha? Meanwhile, the 5 puppets, under the control of the soul-devouring lantern, began to tremble slightly, as if their bodies, manipulated by an evil will, instinctively sensed the impending colossal threat. Suddenly, a chilling aura of dark magic erupted from Su Yi, as if an ancient demon, long restrained, had broken free. Concurrently, the flames surrounding Su Yi ignited like a beacon, surging with terrifying intensity. In the blink of an eye, the endless flames roiled wildly, transforming into a colossal crimson lotus with a diameter of nearly 100 meters. The lotus blazed brilliantly, its petals seemingly flowing with molten gold, each exuding an aura capable of annihilating worlds. The ghostly Rakshasa, which had once cornered Su Yi with the enigmatic power of the yellow spring soul-guiding array, was instantly swept aside by the overwhelming force of the blooming crimson lotus, akin to a fallen leaf caught in a tempest. Its body was uncontrollably hurled backward, shattering countless floating, jagged stones along its path, producing a dull thud. The other 4 guardians, who had simultaneously cast their spells alongside the Rakshasa, fared no better. They were unable to react in time, and were successively struck by the terrifying shockwave unleashed by the lotus. One guardian's arm was ignited in an instant, their piercing scream echoing through the space, while another crashed heavily against a distant cliff, becoming embedded in the rock, their fate uncertain. The yellow spring soul-guiding array, which had once enveloped the entire space with its chilling aura, was now being relentlessly scorched and consumed by the fierce onslaught of the lotus flames, dissipating into nothingness in mere moments. The restorative effects that had previously plagued Su Yi had evidently vanished. The soul-devouring lantern, which had once emitted an eerie green light, now swayed violently under the pressure of the lotus flames. Its flickering light seemed on the verge of being extinguished by this terrifying force, appearing weak and feeble in the radiant glow of the lotus. Du Jiuyu stood at a distance, his eyes wide with disbelief and profound fear, fixating on the blossoming fire of the crimson lotus, etching this horrifying spectacle into his very soul. At this moment, he acutely sensed an unprecedented and formidable threat, his heart pounding violently within his chest. Not only that, at the very center of the blaze, a tremendous and unknown energy surged forth like a volcano on the brink of eruption, causing his legs to tremble uncontrollably. In the face of such power, he was but a trifling ant. The bottleneck of the golden body realm shattered in an instant. How could this be? How could this be? Moments later, the heavens and the earth shifted dramatically as fiery serpents, seemingly breaking free from their confines, ascended wildly from the depths of the earth. The flames surged with ferocity, enveloping the entire sky in the blink of an eye, roaring with an intensity that threatened to transform the firmament into a hellish sea of fire. Amidst this overwhelming inferno, a colossal lotus quietly emerged. The lotus unfurled slowly, each petals opening accompanied by a wave of searing heat, its translucent petals exuding an aura of annihilation. Finally, at that moment, the lotus fully blossomed, and within its core, a tall figure flickered into view. The figure moved with an elegance that drew forth infinite flames. Standing tall, akin to a pine enduring a tempest, he exuded a spirit of grandeur. His crimson hair danced wildly, reminiscent of burning flames, in stark contrast to the grotesque doll-like visage he once bore. Grasped firmly in his hand was a fiery spear, its shaft glimmering with a chilling light, with the spearhead exuding tendrils of flame as if it could rend asunder anything that dared to obstruct its path. The Qinquan circle rested steadily on his arm. The Mingtian silk, like a spirited fire serpent, entwined around his form, dancing gracefully with his movements, slicing through the air into waves of scorching ripples. Most striking was the spectacle beneath his feet. The whirling wheel of wind and fire emitted scarlet flames that distorted the very air surrounding it. Indeed, the mischievous child was merely a fade. As a demonic entity, he was inherently a warrior. The intensity of battle had escalated dramatically, now surpassing the threshold of 75 and ascending to 76. The wheel of wind and fire had been successfully unlocked. At this moment, he had attained the most perfect form. A slight smile graced Su Yi's lips. "Are you ready, young master of the Huangquan sect?" What an awe-inspiring power. Xiao Linglong regained control of her body. But as she sensed the overwhelming pressure akin to the heavens collapsing and the earth sinking, her previously rosy complexion turned ashen, like parchment. No, that cannot be Nezha. Can it? From a distance, Nezha's figure had vanished. Linglong pondered. Perhaps Nezha truly did not deceive us. The heavenly court does not belong to this realm. And even the great emperor could only serve as a heavenly soldier. He is indeed Nezha. Though his appearance has changed, the demonic aura remains unchanged, albeit with a power that has surged hundreds of times. The tone of Ling Ji was heavy with gravity. Indeed, upon meticulous discernment, the elusive aura of demonic energy bears a subtle resemblance to that which once emanated from Nezha. However, the current manifestation of this demonic essence is so ferocious that it sends shivers to the very core of one's soul, its power unimaginable. The celestial beings descending upon our realm harbor fears of shattering the Xiantian realm, thus restraining their own might. It is highly probable that Nezha, in an attempt to contain his strength, manifested as a mere 3-year-old child. Yet now, he has completely unsealed himself, restoring his original form. Nezha did not deceive us. Chapter 21. The Might of the Complete Demon Sphere. Ling Ji gazed upon the imposing figure of Su Yi, surrounded by blazing flames. At that moment, the sight before her utterly shattered her comprehension. In her mind, it felt as though legions of cavalry thundered past, the cacophony deafening. As her long-held worldview and values crumbled like fragile glass, those seemingly absurd utterances had turned out to be irrefutable truths, while she remained ensnared in ignorance, oblivious to the reality. In retrospect, it is no wonder that Nezha merely exhibited a half-smile, neither angered nor inclined to defend himself. Did he find the prospect of arguing with her utterly tedious, or was he quietly mocking her naivety and lack of insight? Once, Ling Ji, with her imperial cultivation, dominated her domain, viewing herself as a paramount alchemist who suppressed an era, believing she had ascended to the pinnacle of the world. Yet now, she realized she was merely a frog confined to a well, utterly unaware of the truths of the real world. Xiao Linglong found herself in a similar state as Ling Ji. Observing the distant youth, she pondered, is this truly Nezha's real appearance? He appears to be merely 12 or 13. A 12 or 13-year-old in the realm of divine void. An authentic existence. Yet one that does not belong to this world of heaven. So, Nezha's words must be true. Xiao Linglong incredulously inquired. The likelihood is indeed high. For Nezha had no reason to deceive us. Ling Ji responded earnestly after a moment of silence. Du Jiuyu stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief as he fixated on the flame-enshrouded Su Yi, his body trembling involuntarily. At that moment, the oppressive force emanating from the divine void surged like a relentless tide, nearly suffocating him, while the shock within him roiled like tumultuous waves. The unbelievable scene before him completely overturned all his previous understandings. A being who once appeared childlike had, in an instant, transformed into a formidable youth, exuding an aura of power that instilled terror. Du Jiuyu's mind erupted in a frenzied outcry. This was utterly absurd. Even among the most powerful emperors he had ever known, he had never heard of anyone achieving such a remarkable metamorphosis. It had transcended the bounds of his understanding. What rendered him most incredulous was the formidable power displayed by Su Yi at this moment, which astonishingly belonged to the realm of divine void. Du Jiuyu's mind was engulfed in a haze, his heart overwhelmed with disbelief. How could he possibly be of the divine void realm? This thought relentlessly spiraled through his mind, refusing to dissipate. As the young master of the Huangquan sect, Du Jiuyu had always been proud and arrogant, having practiced the sect's most elite techniques since childhood. And through exceptional talent and diligent effort, he had achieved a breakthrough to the 9th layer of the golden body at the tender age of 31. His innate gifts were revered throughout the entire Zhou kingdom, placing him among the highest echelons. Over the years, his path in cultivation had been remarkably smooth. effortlessly overpowering his peers and cultivating a demeanor of utter disdain for all. Yet now, this inconspicuous young boy, emerging from an unknown origin, had effortlessly shattered all his pride and confidence, revealing a terrifying strength far beyond his own. How could he possibly accept this? Du Jiuyo's fists were clenched tightly, his nails digging deep into his palms, oblivious to the pain. His eyes, bloodshot and wild, fixated on Su Yi, his heart a tumult of fear at this extraordinary transformation, mixed with resentment over his own power being trampled. It's a deception. Everything is a lie. What trickery is this child employing? Du Jiuyo roared in fury, his spiritual energy surging violently, a torrent of power roaring around him like a crashing black wave. Netherworld's spectral light, shadow, soul, tremor. With his thunderous cry, the flickering light of the soul-devouring lantern abruptly surged, doubling in intensity and piercing the surrounding flames, tearing open a small rift. The five guardians, who had previously lay scattered and lifeless, suddenly quivered to their feet. Their appearances had transformed dramatically, their eyes now gleaming with an eerie crimson light, as if possessed by demons. Previously, they had merely been momentarily reduced to puppets, with a flicker of life remaining. Now, Du Jiuyo had fully sacrificed them, rendering them as harbingers of death. A thick, suffocating aura of death enveloped the five guardians, coiling around them like black smoke, freezing the air in their vicinity with faint cracking sounds. In that moment, Du Jiuyo had plunged into an abyss of madness, completely losing his sanity. He resembled a frenzied beast, hysterically shouting, "Kill! Slay this child!" His voice echoed as if from the depths of the underworld, filled with malice and resentment. The five sacrificed bodies were shrouded in an oppressive aura of death, their once vibrant eyes now hollow and blood-red, resembling cursed corpses. At Du Jiuyo's frenzied scream, their limbs surged with sudden energy, moving with a rigid yet astonishing swiftness, charging towards Su Yi like arrows released from a bow. Su Yi stood calmly with his hands clasped behind his back, observing it all with composure and serenity. Three mystical, true flames. The words, though softly spoken, resonated throughout the realm like the tolling of a great bell. In an instant, the flames enveloping him transformed dramatically. The once orange-red inferno morphed into a deep azure hue. The blazing Samadhi True Fire radiated outward from Su Yi in a circular manner. As this magnificent fire expanded, it perfectly manifested the overwhelming might of a blazing sun. The ethereal blue flames, akin to the tangible radiance of the sun, carried with them boundless heat and tremendous energy, distorting the very fabric of space into rippling waves as it passed. The five bodies, manipulated by dark forces, charged recklessly towards Su Yi, but in the presence of this solar-like true fire, they appeared as fragile as mere paper. In the blink of an eye, they were utterly consumed by the flames, leaving no room for struggle. In a heartbeat, the five corpses were erased from existence, as if they had never been. In the next moment, Su Yi's gaze sharpened, and with a gentle motion of his right hand in the air, the fire-tipped spear, its shaft entwined with flames as if imbued with life, danced joyfully and roared. With a swift flick of his arm, the spear shot forth like a crimson lightning bolt, aimed directly at Du Jiuyo. As the spear tip swung, a torrent of flames erupted from it, the fiery spectacle dazzling like a meteor streaking across the night sky, yet imbued with the power to annihilate all. Du Jiuyo, still reeling from the shock of the five guardians' swift demise, had no time to react. The meteoric flames surged toward him, enveloping him instantly. Under the unbearable heat, Du Jiuyo's body ignited, his skin rapidly charring, and his muscles twisting and withering in the flames. In the blink of an eye, he was reduced to a charred husk, frozen in a pose of terror and unwillingness, unable to utter a sound. The soul-devouring lantern, now uncontrolled, fell to the ground, creating a shallow pit in the scorched earth. Only a few faint glimmers of light flickered desperately at the wick, as if they might extinguish at any moment. Chapter 22. Break. Xiao Linglong felt her heart entangled in chaos, at a loss for words to convey her emotions in this moment. Yet, her actions were not hindered. In a flash, she darted like a streak of light towards Su Yi's direction. In the blink of an eye, she landed firmly on the ground. Raising her gaze, she saw Su Yi smiling at her. This smile was utterly different from his previous cherubic demeanor. The sharp-toothed visage had vanished, replaced by a strikingly handsome face, enhancing his appeal immensely. Seeing this, the anxiety that had been gripping Xiao Linglong finally dissipated, and she let out a sigh of relief before hastily addressing Su Yi. "Nezha, are you all right?" Su Yi gently shook his head, his expression relaxed, a hint of rebellious mirth dancing at the corners of his lips. What could possibly happen to me? By the way, this young master must admit, the young master of the Yellow Springs sect does possess some skill to have pushed me to this extent. As soon as the words fell, Xiao Linglong's eyes widened in astonishment, witnessing Su Yi's body shrink as if enchanted by magic. The formerly tall figure gradually diminished until it transformed back into that of a 3-year-old child, albeit an exceptionally unattractive one. Initially believing she had acclimated to the change, the stark contrast to Nezha's original appearance at this moment was overwhelming, leaving her in a state of disbelief. Filled with curiosity, Xiao Linglong could not help but inquire. Was that just now your true form, Nezha? If so, how did you manage to turn yourself into this 3-year-old child? Why not maintain your original appearance? Su Yi flashed a grin, revealing his signature sharp teeth once more. Simultaneously, an immense sense of pressure emanated from him, expanding outward like an invisible hammer, pressing heavily upon Xiao Linglong's heart. His tone turned icy. That was the complete form of the demon pill. At this moment, Xiao Linglong sensed an unusual aura. The weight of the pressure was overwhelming, rendering her breathless. What seemed to be a harmless question might have inadvertently offended Nezha. After all, presenting oneself in the guise of a child must have been a deliberate choice on Nezha's part. Suddenly, the oppressive sensation vanished, and she heard Nezha calmly inquire, "What sect is Huangquan Zone?" Just as Xiao Linglong prepared to respond, an unexpected blinding white light erupted from the ring on her hand. In an instant, accompanied by the flickering radiance, the graceful figure of Ling Ji reappeared before everyone. Clad in splendid attire, her figure was enchanting, her skin as white as snow, and her eyes like pools of autumn water, exuding the elegance of an otherworldly beauty. Ling Ji glided forward with delicate steps, smiling softly, her voice gentle. "Young friend, allow me to elucidate on Huangquan Zone. I can explain it more clearly than Linglong." Su Yi raised his gaze to Ling Ji, his brows slightly furrowed. He noticed that her ethereal form was exceptionally thin, nearly transparent, as if a gentle breeze could disperse her. Maintaining such a state must impose significant strain. Su Yi smirked. "Old woman, just look at your form. It seems you have little time left before you dissipate." Though Ling Ji found Su Yi's words too blunt and harsh, upon reflection, she sensed a hint of concern beneath the seemingly cold remarks. She pondered silently, realizing that this mischievous child was not beyond redemption. Ling Ji, summoning her remaining strength, smiled faintly, reassuringly saying, "Do not worry, young friend, I cannot dissipate just yet." Beside her, Xiao Linglong wore a worried expression, her eyes filled with concern. If only she were strong enough, her teacher would not need to exert herself in battle, and the consumption of soul energy would not be so great. "Teacher, I shall surely find the extraordinary treasures that will sculpt your physique." Ling Ji merely smiled in response. The Huangquan sect, ranked second among the malevolent sects of the Zhou Kingdom and one of the 10 most notorious cults within the Xiantian realm, cultivates its power by consuming human souls. This method of cultivation enables an astonishingly rapid advancement, albeit at the cost of committing heinous acts such as city slaughter and the extermination of high-level practitioners. However, as they absorb an excessive number of souls, they often suffer from severe mental disarray as their realms increase. Ironically, the higher their cultivation, the less prominent their strength becomes. Yet, through the soul-devouring lantern, they can manipulate 5 puppets that possess equivalent power to their own. Under these circumstances, it is understandable that few would dare to provoke them. Su Yi's gaze fell upon the soul-devouring lantern that lay on the ground, still emanating a chilling aura. This sinister treasure feeds on souls and human flesh, perfectly complementing the Huangquan sect. Ling Ji, noticing Su Yi's attention, remarked with a smile, "However, this lamp shall never return to the hands of the Huangquan sect. Their treasured artifact has been lost, and I can only imagine the headache it has caused them." Within the dark and oppressive hall of the Huangquan sect, the atmosphere was stifling, making it difficult to breathe. The sect leader, Du Feng, clad in a flowing black robe, bore a countenance as dark as the depths of the ocean, radiating a chilling aura that instilled fear. He stood before a jade tablet, his gaze fixated on the shattered remnants of what was once Du Jiuyu's life token. Now, the tablet lay in pieces, scattered upon the stone platform. Du Feng's hands clenched into fists, knuckles whitening from the pressure, his body trembling slightly, a manifestation of his utmost fury. After a prolonged moment, he could no longer contain the volcanic rage boiling within him, and he bellowed towards the heavens. "Who is it? Who has committed this atrocity? I shall flay your skin and dismantle your bones, leaving you without a grave." His roar reverberated throughout the hall, the unleashed spiritual power causing the surrounding walls to tremble violently. Shortly thereafter, 5 figures materialized behind him. Find. Go and search. Yes, sect leader. Du Feng. As the leader of the Huangquan sect, found it laughable to speak of familial ties at such a moment. He understood that the immediate priority was to locate the soul-devouring lantern, a mere lamp that had brought disgrace upon the sect. Having heard Ling Ji's words, Su Yi had already retrieved the soul-devouring lantern from the pit. Recoverable, valued at 46,000 luck points. A precious treasure. Yet, in the next moment, his expression darkened. This lantern was filled entirely with the souls that had been absorbed, so numerous that they were beyond counting. Su Yi's eyes narrowed, and an aura of power surged around him as he raised his hand, firmly grasping the fire spear. In an instant, the runes along the spear glimmered, and the overwhelming might of the fire spear radiated outward like a surging tide. With a low shout of break, the tip of the spear ignited like a star set ablaze, erupting into an intensely radiant and searing light. The radiance was so brilliant that it was blinding, imbued with the cataclysmic force of annihilation, sweeping towards the soul-devouring lantern. With a resounding crack, the soul-devouring lantern shattered at that moment. Chapter 23. The young master becomes a demon, not an immortal. As the lantern shattered, a thick, inky black mist surged forth from the fissures of its body. Following this, ethereal figures began to emerge from the mist, like phantoms materializing slowly. These were the souls imprisoned within the soul-devouring lantern for countless years, densely packed, resembling an endless tide stretching beyond the horizon. Their forms were insubstantial, their features indistinct. After enduring the torment of endless years, they had long since lost their thoughts, their remaining instincts and obsessions eroded by the perpetual darkness. At this moment, they merely stood vacantly, their gazes hollow, completely unresponsive to their surroundings, as though the entire world held no relevance to them. Su Yi gazed upon the multitude of souls, and his heart ignited with fury, burning like an uncontrollable blaze, prompting him to curse vehemently. Beasts. His eyes were bloodshot, fists clenched tightly. The tiny soul-devouring lantern had imprisoned such a vast number of souls, and one could only wonder how many innocents had been slaughtered to achieve this. Truly appalling. He was even oblivious to the fact that his role-playing value had surpassed 80. Xiao Linglong, equally stunned by the scene before her, stood frozen in place, her lips trembling slightly. It was not fear that gripped her, but an indescribable rage. Although she resided in the Xiantian realm, a world governed by the law of the jungle, the sheer cruelty and immorality displayed by the Huangquan sect was enough to ignite her ire. While the Xiantian realm upheld the strong as the esteemed, the merciless harvesting of the weak's lives was utterly contemptible. She silently vowed that once she attained sufficient strength, she would utterly obliterate this morally bankrupt Huangquan sect, seeking justice for these innocently perished souls. As the black light that erupted from the shattered soul-devouring lantern gradually dissipated, the souls, previously standing in a daze, simultaneously emanated a grayish-white glow without warning. This ethereal light enveloped their insubstantial forms, and the once indistinct silhouettes appeared to take on slightly clearer contours under its illumination. Though their faces remained obscured, it could be felt that their postures were no longer vacant and numb. These souls seemed to have reached a silent understanding, collectively bowing towards Su Yi. Soon after, they transformed into wisps of gentle smoke, gracefully ascending and gradually dissipating within this space. At this moment, Su Yi felt a profound discomfort within his heart. Beside him, the spirit princess had been observing his expression intently. She shook her head slightly and sighed softly, saying, "These individuals have been trapped by the soul-devouring lantern for an untold number of years. Throughout the long passage of time, their spirits became entangled with this wicked lamp, eroded, and they have long since merged into one with it. Though you have shattered this lamp, causing their spirits to completely disperse, in truth, it has liberated them from their long-standing agony and confinement. Within that dim light, they endured relentless torment, their essence gradually eroded, living a fate worse than death. Now, this dissolution may indeed represent a tranquil destination for them, a form of release. However, I am taken aback to discover that you, Nezha, have so recklessly destroyed the soul-devouring ghost lamp, a treasure of celestial rank." Su Yi glanced at Ling Ji. "Humph, with this broken lamp, I possess an abundance of treasures. How could I possibly keep it?" Ling Ji shook her head. "At times, I truly find you incomprehensible, despite being enveloped in demonic energy. Your heart remains kind." Upon hearing Ling Ji's words, Su Yi smirked, showcasing his sharp fangs without reservation, his audacious grin blooming freely. "As I embrace the demonic path rather than ascend to immortality, it is only natural that I am shrouded in demonic energy." He then turned his gaze to the shards of the soul-devouring ghost lamp, which indeed astonished him. Recoverable, 13, 400 fate points. Even the fragments are so valuable. It is not as painful now. After all, waste can be repurposed, and he collected the shards of the soul-devouring ghost lamp. Ling Ji, puzzled, inquired, Nezha, what purpose do you have for these fragments? Su-yi rolled his eyes. Old woman, why ask so much? The chaos has subsided. Let us quickly gather this blue lotus earth fire, and our collaboration shall conclude. As he spoke, he placed the shards of the soul-devouring ghost lamp into the space of the Chinquan circle. Then, he directly exchanged them for fate points through the system. 14,000 points secured. Host, Su-yi. Current role, Demon Child Nezha. Current role progress, 80. Divine abilities, Fire Control Technique, True Fire of Samadhi, Innate Divine Strength, Transformation Technique. Complete Demon Form, 3 heads and 6 arms. Law of Heaven and Earth, not yet unlocked. Magical Artifacts, Hunyuan Silk, Chinquan Circle, Fire Spike Spear, Wind Fire Wheel. Fate Points, 72, 200. Although it has not yet reached 100,000, it is not far off. He eagerly anticipated the upcoming draw at 100,000. What treasures might he obtain? Nezha's role progress also reached 80, with only the law of heaven and earth remaining to be unlocked. His current strength was indeed formidable. Growing to this stage over the course of 2 months, Su-yi felt a profound sense of satisfaction. This time, Ling Ji did not retreat into the ring as usual, but instead walked ahead with a light, yet somewhat frail gait, guiding the way for everyone. Reflecting on her initial plan, Ling Ji had intended to infiltrate, successfully acquire the blue lotus earth fire, and then emerge to assist everyone in confronting the crisis. Yet plans are ever susceptible to change. Just as she prepared to step into that perilous domain, the tides of battle had undergone a dramatic transformation. Who could have anticipated that Nezha alone would unleash such formidable power, akin to a war god descending, swiftly vanquishing the enemy with overwhelming might? The formidable means and unparalleled strength displayed left Ling Ji utterly astounded, and she secretly rejoiced in the serendipity of having inadvertently found such an extraordinary ally alongside Ling Long. Fortune indeed smiled upon her. Otherwise, she would have long been consumed by the soul-devouring lamp. However, it must be said that had she not revealed her spiritual form to forge a collaboration, she would not have drawn the attention of the Huangquan sect. One can only conclude that fate dictates our every sip and morsel. The trio hastened along their path, soon arriving at an expansive clearing. The area was shrouded in a dense mist, thick as if it were a tangible entity, enveloping the entire space like a heavy veil. The fog seemed almost sentient, beginning to stir as they stepped into its embrace, as if it had sensed their presence. This place bore little resemblance to a secret realm. It was rather peculiar. Su-yi lifted his gaze, noting that the mist here mirrored that of their initial entry, its gaze filled with avarice and malevolence. 3 mysterious, true flames. The flames surged forth, igniting bursts of white light. Gradually, the mist began to dissipate, revealing the full scope of what lay behind it. Before them stood a colossal portal, quietly looming. The doorway was formless and colorless, yet palpably real, as if it were a distortion of space itself. Beyond it lay a realm of chaos, a thick darkness swirling like ink, unfathomable and seemingly connected to an infinite void. This was indeed the entrance.